opposite to what KO.
No, they must drink. That's where that fucking Bugmanson is from, isn't he?
I know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's weird. They've given two different they've given two different bits of information on them. One which is that like the Bugman Dwardenson guy, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
But also the other one they gave was it was like a guide to which Dwarden drink the most, and they were like dispossessed by far drink the most, fire slayers drink, but due to the temperature and their like raging honor, like the temperature burns off a lot of the alcohol, so no matter how strong they try to make it, like it doesn't actually last.
They've
like
ballsed it up.
and
Fucking
they're
drinking hot beer.
and they're all too serious and stuff like that. And the because they're constantly in suits, the overlords don't actually drink that much at all. Also, given the high altitude, any alcohol they do drink hits them a lot harder. So I'm like, oh, okay. But the guy who goes around giving out the booze,
beer.
yeah, or he's just rocking around giving out light beer, which is a little bit more disappointing. He's like, I am the greatest blah blah. And meanwhile, somewhere Bugman is just rolling in his grave, being like, you call this.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to the Age of Sigmar Monday show. That's face.
They'd probably inject it, I reckon.
I'd like to know how long we were live for.
Long enough. Everyone was. Right, hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. It's me and the trio of trouble. That's right. I got Mr. Nathan Prescott, Dan and Supervisor, and James Raw here, and we are going to be talking about maybe if the computer doesn't blow up. We're going to be talking about the Battalions and the Disciples of Tzeentch Battle Tome. We had a great time last time talking about the Cities of Sigmar Battle Tome. I'm hyped for today. But before we do that, I want to say hello to everyone who's joined us, everyone on Patreon. Massive thank you to you, and of course, everyone who listens to the podcast, stay hydrated. Now, I'm going to say hello to everyone in the chat, who's joined me live. Nathan Prescott, how have you been? What have you been up to?
Hello. I'm all right, thank you. What I've been up to, not much. I had to self-isolate for a few days, but that's finished now, thank goodness. So I'm back out there doing that normal sort of stuff. And painting-wise, I've finished all the zombies bar one. And now I'm actually painting a fucking elf.
An elf?
Yeah, his name's Silas.
What the hell? I'd like... Okay, there's lots to unpack there because I feel like it's being invaded. Started with Dan, and then it moved sideways into James, and now it's moved up. And just because I'm like directly opposite Dan, I feel like I'm the most insulated. But if I'm now surrounded by elf players, I feel annoyed. Is the only thing I've got to say. And
I've never played with it, but I'm painting him.
Is he a dead elf on a base?
No, he's just Silas, the elf that runs around in Black Plague. Zombie side Black Plague.
Oh, okay. All right. There are elves in it. Wait.
Yeah. Elves and dwarves and a battle mage as well.
No way. In Zombicide. Okay.
Well, there's a medieval version of Zombicide which Nathan has moved on to.
Wait, so you got a new version of Zombicide?
No, this is the version I went straight for.
Okay.
I didn't go for the other one. I just went straight in for Black Plague.
That makes more sense and sounds way, way cooler, ultimately. Can I just say, before we go any further, can I thank John Askam, Nathan's OnlyFans, all for resubscribing. Big love to you, and to Stu Flynn, of course, as well. You're all brilliant. Thanks. We're also joined by Meg's boyfriend, James. How are you?
Oh, yeah, fine, thanks. Very well. I don't have a lot to report. I'm currently painting some Rohirrim.
Really?
Nice.
Rohirrim? How come you're doing that? How come you're painting Rohirrim?
Because I've intended to play for ages. So I own the army, but I've never really done anything with it. So I thought, I was talking to Miles the other day, who's basically built and painted an entire army during lockdown, and he was like, I think like it's been a really good time for me to paint an army, and know that when I come out of lockdown, the new season, I have a whole new army that I don't even have to rush paint. So I was like, I've almost finished all the Skaven, and then I've been watching Lord of the Rings, and I was like, gonna paint that Rohan army. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay, nice. A lot of people say in the chat there's not many FAQs. Apparently it's really fun. I've heard it's the game. Everyone who plays any game says, you played Lord of the Rings yet? And I'm like, no. And they're like, you really should. It's fucking great. Like,
The bits I've played are great, and it's got like super narrative rules. So there's part of me wants this army just because I think it will look cool, and then the other part of me basically just wants to buy all the stupid models. So you can buy like the old guy who stands on the wall of Helm's Deep, lets off his bow and starts the fight because he can't hold on to it.
Right, yeah.
Remember him?
Yeah.
And his special rule is that when it reaches the shooting phase, before anyone else's shoots, he has to.
Perfect.
Every round, always shoots first.
Great. Great.
I like that.
Elf. Always shoots first. Always spurts off first. I bet he's not accurate though.
No, he's terrible.
Yeah.
But he always shoots first.
Not something that you want to go home and wave the flag about you being the best at. However, it's good that he's got a thing.
Well, that's brilliant. I'm really happy about that. Dan, how have you been?
Oh, just the best. Yeah, I'm great, on top of the world. So excited to talk about the very intellectual and mentally demanding Tzeentch battle tomes, battalions. This show, I'm on it. I'm ready. I'm operating at 110%. So
that's an improbable percentage.
Exactly. That's why I'm ready for Tzeentch today.
Okay.
Now I know what you're thinking. How didn't you know the stream had started? And that's a very good question. Just as planned, I guess. Just as planned.
Don't worry, I've got many a person out with that. Hard to do now with a timer, but apparently not impossible.
Not impossible if you're not paying attention. No, I'm good. I did up a list of all the units that I need to finish my Lumineth army conversions, and I thought it was going to be horrifying, and it's just big. Like I thought I was going to do it because I've been avoiding doing it because I was like, oh, I'm gonna work out like what I need, and I'm gonna look at it and be like, well, I'm never finishing this army because it's going to be too much. Because I've done that before, where I started converting and I do 1 unit, 2 units, and I get so into it that I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter, these are just test units, that's fine. And then I go, okay, I want to do the army, I write the list, and then I look at it and I'm like, that's like so many thousands of dollars just for cheap, shitty units that I'm never going to use. And I did this one, and I was like, you know what? It's not cheap. It would be a lot cheaper to buy them in Australia and Canada than what I thought it'd be. So it's not too bad. I'm okay with it. And it's got me excited to get them finished.
That's good. That's what we need. It's all about finishing our hobby projects. That's what we're doing this year. 2021, Honest Wargamer crew, let's go. We're finishing our projects. You can hear
Finish what we started.
Nathan's finding one now. We're going to finish what we started. That's the point. Yeah, right.
Like a bottle of tequila. If you start it, you got to finish it.
The fuck is.
You're all great. Big love to you. We're finishing off what we started, or in James's case, starting something new. Good. All right. Well, I'm glad you're all okay. You're all okay, right? That's what I want to check.
How are you?
And you? How's the computer machine?
Computer machine's looking. Well, it's been quiet right now, so we'll see. But we're all pretty certain the computer machine needs some new fans. So not only fans, but that is a hilarious joke. Don't make it again. Yeah, finger guns for you all. Hilarious. But I did rub it with some oil, and then so that seems to have worked right out. What else have I been doing? I 3D print.
Usually shuts me up in a heartbeat. Yeah.
Lubricant. Stops you screaming. Yeah, it tends to.
Oh Jesus!
Well,
Christ.
I mean, if that doesn't work, you've tried honey. You got to try the stick afterwards. So if it starts making noise again, go at it with some sandpaper. I usually find one of those two things shut me up.
Yeah. That's all you need. What have I been doing? So this week I printed my first ever 3D models. Well, my first resin models, which is pretty fun. So I've been pretty excited about that. That's been fun. Then it's been a bit tumultuous. I've just before the show started went to see that another print hasn't stuck to the top, which is frustrating. So there's there's some stuff to learn there. But the stuff I have printed so far, and again, I've only been into it for like 3 days, so I don't have tons to report, other than I've printed some models which are definitely like table worthy. I would say that I've had Forge World models that are way worse. Do you know what? Can we talk about a unit for a minute? Yeah, all of them. Can we talk about flamers? Like, how do they actually sell flamers as a model? Like, I was thinking about this. I got this beautiful...
Because they're really strong.
They look like pure dirt. Like, I was like, what is even this design? Like, it's shit. Like, it's like actual shit. Like, I could make that out of putty or something. Like, and I have no artistic talent. Yeah, any of that. Like, anyway. So I've had loads of fun. I've been looking at designs. So first I'm gonna do myself an ogre army, which I'm very excited about. Print myself up one of those. They're all going to be pirate ogres to keep with the pirate nautical theme of what we're up to. And then there's a couple of... I'm going to do an Arabian-themed Lumineth army. And then I'm going to do a Japanese-themed Idoneth army. So fucking suck it.
How many eels? How many eels?
Well, they'll all be dragons, actually. So fucking none, James, actually. But loads of dragons, to answer your question.
More so dragons.
And none of them are elves. They're all humans pretending to be elves. So suck a dick. It's going to be brilliant. I'm really excited. So yeah, like I've been having loads of fun with that, as you guys know, and I won't bang on about it all day. But I mean, the models are just outrageous. Like, I cannot wait to paint up the hunter and his. So I don't know, Nathan, you've seen these already, but the hunter, instead of having saber tusks, which obviously again look like I could have made them out of putty, are walruses.
Oh, cool!
Have you not seen them?
No.
Oh, I'll send you some
I've not
pictures.
seen the walruses. I've seen.
They are great.
That dude. I assume the dude with all the hooks on his bandolier is the hunter. Yeah, that is a particularly nice model. That.
Very lacquer. Yeah. So, and there's like a tyrant, then there's like some crew, and the big Stonehorn was going to be a pirate captain, but who has commandeered a giant sea crab, is going to be the Stonehorn. He looks absolutely mega. So that's going to be my ogre army, and that'll be super fun. So that's all I've been up to this week. A lot of that's been learning. I've been printing terrain for the venue, so that's been super fun as well. We're done with the temple kind of like Seraphon board, so that going to look sweet. There's an Ollie town, and then I am now printing a Sylvaneth town, like a kind of like forest glade, like slashed with like a wood elf palace sort of thing. Is what I'm doing right now.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's quite fun. There's even like a little like Sylvaneth realm gate and stuff. So that's fun. It's quite fun just doing themed boards and then just clicking like go. So yeah, that's been my week. Not really. I'm doing feudal Japanese Lumineth, says Davidams. There we go. See, like it's so much fun to do other stuff for your armies, if that makes sense. Dan, you've done that obviously, haven't you, with your Gargants?
I'm a big fan of getting creative with stuff. Like for my ogres, my hunter is all covered up with stormcasty bits, and then all of my dogs are converted and beaten up little chicken thingies, whatever they're called. God, I can't remember. Griffhounds. Oh my God, my brain is broken. I'm actually, when I saw the Warhammer community article today, I'm excited to see the Fear Cats as well. They look really wicked. They'll make really cool saber tusks as well, I think. In fact, they're literally just cats with gigantic front teeth. They are exactly what a saber tusk should be, just with a little bit more weird undertail fur. I'd love to know the logic behind why they evolved fur. Like along the spine makes sense. Under the tail, though, because that's traditionally where, if it needs to defecate, it's going to get stuck in its fur. I think about these things. I see a new model, and I think about because I love pets. I love dogs, and so I'm looking at it going like, if this was a dog, its tail is always covered in its poo. However, very cool models will make excellent saber tusks.
I guess it depends how much it poos, right?
Given the size of its mouth
and the solidity of its poo. If
Look
it's
at
like
it-
a rabbit poo, it'll be fine.
I mean, but look at its muscles, right? Clearly, it requires a lot of protein to maintain those gains.
What if it poos Aether Quartz? Have we thought about
it's
this?
It's from Necromunda, so it absolutely doesn't. Like, probably liquid hate comes out of the back end of that thing.
Okay, that's a really.
Well, that's what happens when you have loads of protein. Definitely. I bet it stinks as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, welcome to the show. Hope you guys
High
enjoyed the
protein
podcast
meals.
journey, whatever you're doing. Sat there like, it's
Is it dinner
right
time
now,
yet?
lads.
Stay hydrated. Oh my gosh.
It poos out its mouth as venom. Think about that. Or it does a square poo like a wombat, says K-Dread. I did not know they did square poos. Now that's hilarious to me.
But not to the wombat.
Gosh, the animals of my country are a mess.
And maybe it sprays poo like a hippo. In fact, actually, things I will research later. Pooing habits of the animal kingdom.
Which leads us to the logical question: how does the Korgorath go to the toilet? We know how it makes love. Now we need to know how it goes.
How
to
does
the
it
washroom.
poo? How can you print a tiny poo? No problem. I can print Lumineth models all day. So,
Oh,
I
Yeah,
just
well
hate
done.
elves.
That was-
I just hate elves.
Too soon.
Apart from tree elves. Tree elves don't count. So, cool. On to the news section of the show, because there is news. Yeah, everyone get ready to fist pump like Arnie Schwarzenegger. Yeah. Oh God! Do you hear my computer make that noise? Fuck! If it blows up, I've loved you all forever. You need to know that. Yeah. R.I.P. me. The Age of Sigmar FAQ is but weeks away. Asterisks. But weeks asterisks away. It could arrive at any moment.
Same as it ever was.
Well, no, because previously we didn't know if it could ever arrive at any moment. We thought maybe it could arrive at any moment. Now we know it could arrive at any moment. I know that doesn't sound like a big change. I know that
Same
doesn't
as it
sound
ever
like...
was.
No, that's a different change. No.
Yep. Oh, okay.
So
fair
they've
enough.
announced it's coming.
They've announced it is on its way, definitely, as opposed to on its way, maybe, which is very different.
Yeah. No, that is different.
If I told you guys you were maybe going to get a blowjob later, you'd be like, oh, okay, maybe sounds exciting. But if I was like, you definitely are, you'd be like,
No, but
wish I'd have washed my balls.
This is you definitely maybe are.
No, we definitely are. Oh, it doesn't matter. Whatever. We are getting.
That's true, but my question is like, what if it comes at a really just a bad time for me, where I can't properly enjoy it? Because the thing, like, I want the FAQ, but I want to sit down. I want to like pour myself a whiskey and just really enjoy the FAQ. I don't want the FAQ to surprise me at work.
What, is
Okay,
there a bad time for a blowjob?
There is Nathan.
Yes.
Nathan, specifically, and you know the bad time. Yeah, you know the bad time, right?
No.
You're never allowed to get
didn't
cocktails
say
from
it,
that bar.
somebody else
You're never
said
allowed
it.
to get cocktails from that bar again. Joe Purcell's still scarred by that experience. Yeah? How dare you mention it on the show, Nathan? Yeah, this
I
is
never
meant to be a
did.
respectable show.
It wasn't me that said it was a bad time. I was having a good time.
But
She could say it was a bad time. Mouth was full. Right, so you had to have said it. Like,
No,
just a little
I wouldn't
FYI
say-
to this situation after this debacle, which I can't go into for I think still pending legal reasons. The follow up was Nathan apparently hammered at 4 a.m. told me he then pissed in a bucket for 15 to 20 minutes, which I was like. I was like, 15 to 20 minutes, Nathan. He was like, yeah, it was that long. And I was like, that's physically impossible. And then he tried to fight me about the fact that that's how long it was. And I was like, we're not fighting at McDonald's, Nathan. Right, anyway.
I love that your priorities were in order, Nath.
Dear God. Right, okay, so I think that's all the news. Unless anyone else has any other news. Obviously, events are out. If you guys only listen to the Monday show, I have put up a YouTube video about how to play Age of Sigmar on Tabletop Simulator as like a quick learner guide video. It's not very complicated to do. If you guys are missing playing Warhammer and you're excited about playing Warhammer at some point in your life, then that would be a good way to go about like watching how to learn it about the computer machines and whatnots. It's not very complicated. You can run it on a pretty rubbish computer, and the video is available for you guys to watch at any point. So whenever you need. If ever you want to get into it, you should, because it's a fun old time, and also if you're missing your pals or you want to make new pals, it's a great way of going about it, right?
It's and I think, what is it? Hammer Time has 2 events coming up, like a full weekend. I'm super excited.
Yeah, it was Zydy Guy, I think, who asked for it a couple of days ago. So yeah, it's just on YouTube, bud. Maybe I've already I haven't posted it. Sorry, so you can't find it. You're gonna have to go find it yourself. It's on the Honest Wargame YouTube, surprisingly. So there we go. Okay, good. So that's all the news. If there's no other news, I mean, there's not much news to talk about. Obviously, Games Workshop said they're slowing down their release schedule. According to a video that I saw today, we're no longer allowed to take bread into Europe. So Nathan, James, that road trip we have planned, we're going to eat jam sandwiches and take a trip to the Eiffel Tower. And
sorry,
the French. Yeah,
you're not allowed to take bread.
No bread.
What? Why? Is there?
I don't know. I'm not in charge of this.
Brexit.
Yeah, Brexit. You don't get... That's an unleavened joke.
It's all toast now.
Just everyone's sitting there. They're just really. Is it because for some reason you guys are awful to celiacs, and they're just like, oh my gosh, no one let any gluten into France, otherwise everyone's dicks are gonna fly off.
Those of you guys said, you fucking did a Brexit. You're toast now, my friend.
Oh no. No.
Yes,
he's been saving this for 6 months.
How far into the
4
show
years.
are we? Can we just? I can't. This
You'll
is
be
too
coming
much.
looking for breadcrumbs. And...
Okay. All right. I love how someone new see this pop up on YouTube. It's like, oh, I love to sample Tzeentch. Can't wait to talk about this. 27 minutes in.
There you go.
Right. Okay. So, there's no news, is what I'm saying, because Games Workshop's release schedule is a little bit slower now, so we probably won't see some stuff until we see the Mortal Realms. There have been some stories, some indications. There was a picture which made everyone think about pirates, which led to the question posed by Benjamin Savra on Twitter, which I thought I'd ask on the show as well. Pirates, cool or not cool? So, Nathan, pirates, cool or not cool?
Pirates are normally quite cool. Yeah, they're pretty chilled out dudes wandering around the sea, shooting people, making them walk off of planks.
They do. I think that's more of the Errol Flynn era. I think the real version of it was
around the equator, just nicking people's tankers.
I would love if they did Vampire Pirates, but it was all like modern day pirates, where they're all just on really fast dinghies, and there's just 6 of them with AKs. Yeah, like, I'm the captain now. You're like, fuck, I wasn't expecting this from a vampire.
Can you imagine as well? They just give like an Age of Sigmar model an AK-47, and it's like, how many shots? 30 in a clip. Each shooting phase, 30 dice per dude. 5s to hit.
I mean, that would be a pretty
It wasn't
strong
a good
army.
one.
6 Somalian vampire pirates, yeah? That's a shooting phase of like, whatever, like fucking 180 shots. That'd be wild.
No. Because if there was 10 in the unit, 9 would have AKs and 1 would have an RPG.
Yeah.
So he's one shot, that dude.
The champion gets an RPG. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
On the vampire thing, I saw it like, okay, there's a lot of noise being made about it. People being like, I love it, I don't love it. All I would say is that there have been a lot of releases that I didn't see coming, or if you told me ahead of time, I would have said that's really stupid and it's never going to work. And now that we have the models, I love them. And like, I'd point to Sky Dwarves. If you're like Dwarves of the Sky, I'd be like, piss off. Or if you're like Sea Elves, because I really wanted an aquatic army. I was like, give us Naga, give us like kind of lizardy fish people or something like that. You know, like the Naga from World of Warcraft. They've got a really cool, unique thing to it. And then when it was Sea Elves, I was like, but I love it. I like seeing their aesthetic. I think it's really, really wicked. So I don't know. I guess we've seen we've seen things that made sense, like fire dwarves, and even though they all look the same to me, it's a really cool army, a really cool aesthetic. We've seen sky dwarves. I'm open to it. I think it's very easy to get crappy about something we haven't seen because it's a foreign concept, and I'm gonna withhold judgment until I've seen them, because personally they might be absolutely banging, they might look rocking, they could do a million wicked things for it, and I'm not gonna get snippy because some movie did undead pirates first.
Do you know what I like?
Go on, James.
I like the idea that no one actually knows they're real. No one knows it's coming. And I really am excited if in 10 years' time people are still like, well, what about the vampirates? Because they've never come out. I just love, like, if you looked at that question the other day and the like traction it caused, and I joined in just to troll Ben Sava, but there was a point I was like, don't even know this is real. Like, if they teased a vampire pirate and people were going crazy about it, I'd be like, cool, okay, now we know what's going on. Literally, I would love the idea that someone that's wrote for Black Library in that one book once was like, and then there were some vampires on a boat, and that's it. Like, that's all that's happened, and people have gone crazy with it because that's what the community does. And actually, there's just some guy in, like, the rights for Black Library that's just like, I need someone on a boat. Vampire. I don't really know much about Age of Sigmar. Vampire. Done. Next story. Like, I'm going back to 40k.
It's actually
very,
very close to how the stories get written. Just FYI, I had a bit of an insight into those recently, over a year, and not too dissimilar to how they're written, basically.
Good. That's what I want to hear.
Big shout out to Clint Werner.
I'd love to see. I'd love to see, like, or the same effect as when the people found the line, like, Cetrus and his imperishables was a Stormcast unit, and everyone was like, Cetrus in the mortal realms and he's a Stormcast and he's coming and he's doing all that, and then afterwards they were like, nah, we were just fucking with you. It was just a name of a character. We put it in there to mess with you, and then everyone's like, oh. Like, so, you know, that people just name shit in books. It's great.
They do. It's true. Nathan, you got any thoughts on the vampire pirates? I'm not bothered at all.
The vampire pirates, if they come, they come. If they don't come, they weren't there to begin with.
Do you have a pirate? Do you have a favorite pirate from TV, film, and/or mythology?
Captain Pugwash.
I meant vampire. Favorite vampire. So sorry.
Oh, vampire.
Yeah.
I've got one.
Yeah, go on then.
I'm going for old school Nosferatu because has anyone ever been? I feel like you should have been, Nathan, but you might not have. And now the place. Oh no, where is it? There's a place in England where Nosferatu was supposed to land. It's going to annoy me. Hang on.
Oh yeah. Was it Whitby?
Well, Whitby. Have you ever been to Whitby?
No, I've not. I've seen pictures though.
Okay, so if you ever go to Whitby, there is a museum, and I say museum lightly. It's basically like a live interactive walkthrough experience that was probably made 30 years ago.
Ooh.
No one could afford to update, so there's like one kid in a terrible Dracula mask that jumps out on you once. But it's like, so Whitby, no one's ever been, because I did go once, twice a year on a normal year, has a goth weekend. And people go like goth to the nines, there's goth parties, goth discos, goth everything. And it's this tiny little quaint English seaside town where apparently once Dracula landed his boat. Can't remember the rest of that story. And for 2 weekends a year, everyone goths up. And I mean, like, not like goths up, like puts on some black eyeliner like we did as youths and go to the nightclub. Like, people drive hearses with like entire displays in the back.
Really?
Yeah.
Actually sounds really rad.
Yeah, it's actually super cool. So that's what I want.
Can that be the only place the Honest Wargamer like live audience and crew meet for one party? We all go there.
Let's do it. Let's go to the
first
goth
Honest
weekend.
Wargamer real life meetup will be at the is now officially been announced as being at the Whitby Goth convention. or whatever it's called.
I also like the fact that Chumphammer went.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Also, Nathan's OnlyFans went. He said it was child abuse. My dad took me through. Nathan, do you know there's an account called Nathan's OnlyFans?
No.
We've got a follower called Nathan's OnlyFans.
What?
They've been a subscriber for 7 months.
That makes it even better.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, okay. Did you come up with a favourite vampire, Dan?
My favourite vampire? No, I didn't. Sorry. It's like It's like working through a cloud. But if I had to pick one, I would
definitely
probably
that kid from Twilight.
I was going to say one of the Twilight vampires. I'd love to see them in Age of Sigmar just so I could murder the hell out of them with Gotrek. Like, can you imagine how satisfying that would be? These two vampires. I'm not completely up with the storyline of Twilight, but can you imagine these two vampires looking lovingly into each other's eyes, and then just Gotrek runs up and hacks them into itty bitty pieces with their axe, like while just a bunch of like teen heartthrobby people watch on, just wanting things to get better for them. Like, oh my gosh, whatever her name was.
Bella. Her name was
Bella. And I was like, oh my gosh, are they going to get together? And then you just hear this, come here, you dickhead! And then like this axe just cleaves them in half. Much better book or movie or whatever it is. So I'm going to go with that just so that they can be murdered by Gotrek.
Okay, that seems fair. Nathan, got a favourite vamp? Twitch chat also, obviously?
I'll go with Hidan from the Naruto manga. He's not a proper vampire, but he's like a vampire. Immortal sort of dude.
Can I guess yours, Rob?
Yeah, go for it.
I reckon yours is Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
You're not wrong. Yeah. You're not wrong. And there's literally nothing. There's nothing better. Apart from Blade. Blade was also great. I did like.
Yeah. No, you can't like that anymore, can you?
What did he do? Didn't he only avoid tax?
Yeah. We're fine with him.
Yeah. That's not a serious one.
Amazon and Apple do it. We're fine with them.
Yeah, Blade, you get a pass. Well done, Edgar Friendly. Okay, so a load of people love it. Nathan, you got a lot of love for Hidan. So well done. Big love. You win the fight. Not a lot of people on my side with.
Realised there was a fight.
Spike for Buffy. There was.
He wins a lot of fights. Yeah,
bragging rights on the Honest Wargamer Monday show is pretty important. Okay, so as of the suggestion, I'm going to keep shouting out. James is, I don't know, our Battalion Breakdown, that's what we're calling it, BB. Battalion Breakdown. Last week had a great time talking about the Cities of Sigmar battalions, and this week we're going to talk about the Tzeentch battalions from Battletome Tzeentch, which was super fun. Nathan, me and Owen have been talking a lot. I don't know about Dan and James if you guys have had any of this conversation, but we've been talking a lot about Viridian Pathway Living City lists since last week. Yeah, wow. we've been trying to make it work. The answer is not that easy.
Is the actual answer that you and Owen just aren't good enough at writing lists to make it work?
Also possible.
At least me.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. Major Sockbird, thank you for subscribing. Big love to you, or resubscribing. Loads and loads of love. Anyone who does subscribe. So I'm obviously going to do breakfast battles this week. I've got 3 matches lined up, which is quite fun. Owen, Chris Welfare, and Colonel Cabbage will be playing in the morning. So next 3 days. So I'm looking forward to that. However, we are facing off. I'm going to probably try and run one of the battalions that we talk about today to try and do a fun little continuation, because it would have been quite fun to have done the Viridian Pathways. Battalion last week and giving it a try. So this week we'll see which one takes our fancy. And if you guys haven't listened to last week's show, I do encourage you to go listen to it back because it was a great show.
Especially the end. Watch listen to the most uncomfortable man in the world get stuck in another conversation when he really needs to go to the toilet.
Is this me?
just the because I believe the sign off for that was okay, we gotta go bye. There was no
We've been the Honest Wargamer. Thanks for watching.
Why are you talking so much about the things?
Wait, and then just towards the end, I was like, "Wait, didn't we miss a city?" And the blood drained from your face.
It was sad. And I'm okay with it. But we won't miss any of these today, so let's go.
Absolutely not.
So the first battalion to talk about is... yeah, that's correct, K-Trade. I did go for a piss that took 15 to 20 minutes in a bucket. Good callback. Right, so the Aether Eater Host is the first battalion we're going to look at. So obviously it's each battle tome. So we did talk about this. Most of the battalions, if we look at a book, we're probably going to look at a book whose battalions are like fairly new, or the book isn't going to overly change. I think that's going to be really important. Obviously, when we're talking about the Tzeentch book, you have to remember things like Destiny Dice. That's really quite important as well. Obviously, Change Host is the battalion that you see all the time. So we will obviously touch on that when we do get to it, but it doesn't need as much conversation as everything else. And then, yeah, it'll be a fun way for you to potentially build your army, looking at these battalions, and then put those into a match, even if it's not as competitive as it could be, right? Blood Pod, thanks for subscribing. Loads of love to you. First time in the team. Oh, welcome. We need some sort of fun thing that we do when someone subscribes. I'm just going to give you a thumb. Couldn't be more boring. There you go. Well done. Also, don't forget, if you are a subscriber, you can potentially, or not, you can. Someone's going to win a 3D printed piece of terrain and a 3D printed model from the Honest Wargamer if you're a subscriber. So that's fun. And I'm going to do the Hunter as the giveaway. Nathan,
Nice.
the one I talked about. Yeah.
Ah, cool.
Can we just talk about the horrifying concept of what a blood pod is? I assume that it's just a small little capsule that you slide on into that's full of blood. Horrifying concept. Blood pod, I'd love for you to clear it up in my mind so I know exactly what you're talking about. Because at the moment it's nothing but a horror show in my brain. And I've
Where have you
got
got blood pod from?
Blood Pod, they just subscribed on
just
Twitch.
subscribed.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
And oh god, Jump Hammer just absolutely making it worse, saying the Tide Pod challenge gone wrong. Yeah, I need something in my head that just to clean it up, or that's exactly what you wanted me thinking of, and now I can never unsee it.
You thought when you were hungover you had crappy conversations too, but no, it happens to everyone. Yeah, it's like I love you so much, Dan. You're so great. Also, quick announcement before we get on with these: on the 2nd, 5th, 6th, 5th and 6th, 3rd and 4th, maybe of February, there is a TTS event. We'll be doing the coverage. Very fun. A day of competitive coverage on the Saturday and a day of uncompetitive coverage on the Sunday. Nathan, you might be excited about this TTS event. Do you want to hear the rules for the TTS event on the Sunday?
Go on then.
Everyone has to have a Gargant.
Nice.
You can't have more than 2 of the same War Scroll.
Oh, yeah. Cool. I'm liking this. I'm liking it. Yeah,
everyone is from the realm of Gur.
Sweet.
Yeah.
This is a great tournament.
Yeah, it's going to be on Sunday. It's somewhere between the 3rd and the 6th. I don't know the date, so one of you.
Does it have to be a Mega Gargant, or can it be any of the Gargants?
A Mega Gargant.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
I thought you might like that. So we'll be doing coverage of that.
That's going to be fun. Yeah.
But the day before, there'll be coverage of a competitive Hammer Time event, Hammer Time 7. The day after, we'll be getting really freaky weird on the narrative. Like really long expositions on exactly why that Gargant is with that army. Expect almost no information on why the armies are the way they are, or what's happening tactically. Just long, detailed narrative. Imagine 2 people playing D&D while other 2 people play a game of Warhammer. Basically that for 3 hours, 3 times.
It'll be a lot of we'll find out how many new orcs love rocks. That's it. We'll be a part of the story, in the story, and around the story.
Agreed. Right. Okay. So battalions from Tzeentch, 44 minutes in. Let's go. Right. That's for the timestamp. Because for some reason someone might not want to listen to what we just did, but they'd be.
Whoa, what?
I know. I love it on a YouTube comment. Someone's like, "Show starts 37.4 minutes in." I was like, "How dare you?" Yeah. If anything, that's when the show ended. Right, so the Aether Eater Host, it's 140 points, and it's a quite good battalion. It's one Herald of Tzeentch on a burning chariot, and 3 to 8 in any combination of the Blue Scribes, Herald on burning chariot, Herald on disc, or Screamers of Tzeentch. Now, the abilities that you get for this are Whenever a model in this battalion unbinds a spell, that model heals D3 wounds. One unit of Screamers can also unbind one spell per enemy hero phase as well. So there's some stuff to unpack here, ultimately, because this one seems very keen on the Screamers. Have you guys ever played against Screamers? You seen how they've done?
They're not great at the moment.
They're cheap. They're very cheap. 80 points for 3 wounds each. Like, that's pretty good. They're very fast. Their movement 16. And they're not good if you play, let's say, Stormcast, but they're great if you play a monster and a hero, because they've got an ability to fly over models and do mortal wounds. And then they also have... They also get extra damage if they fight a monster. So if you do fight against something that's a monster and a wizard, they can be strong, but
they're great. I mean, look, if you were to look at them in the same way as, say, Aether Wings, they're great chaff. Fast, they've got a decent base size, so they can chaff up a unit or block like kind of a line of advance pretty well.
Yeah, they're quite good. Nate, you played against these? Yeah.
I think you had them once or twice, maybe. I can't remember if they did anything though. I think they just flew around. I think, they just flew around, did stuff whilst I got shot to pieces by those other things, and then tried to kill, the flamers, and then tried to kill fucking horrors, and that didn't work. So there you go.
Gotta love a horror.
Now, So
yeah, I think they're the fact that they're fast is good. Because I mean, Tzeentch don't really worry too much about chaff because they've got horrors, and then and obviously their output comes from magic and from flamers.
So I've played this with this unit quite a bit, and my feedback on the unit is like, if you take hordes of them, and you can take so many of them, is that they do okay, but they really aren't brilliant. I mean, they're a demon unit, so obviously you can use full reality on them, which is quite cool. Not that you would necessarily do that, but you could. They don't have any other special rules though, so they don't have like a bannerman that does anything quite interesting. It's you can make them, if you played it right, you might be able to get them reroll hits. So you could do okay. It's like nice way of looking at Screamers. They've got those 3 wounds each. So they've got 3 attacks each, 4s, 3s, no rend, and they only damage 1. But that does go up to D3 if you're fighting a monster. And like I said, if you fly over a unit, you roll a model for each. Dice for each model in the unit that flew over the enemy unit, and they take mortal wounds on a 5, but D3 mortal wounds if it's a wizard. So there's some kind of interesting interactions, and actually I was thinking about this before the show, the Aether Eater host. It's kind of fun if you put this into a Lumineth matchup, because obviously, like, I don't necessarily think that they're going to do any damage to Teclis, and then they won't do any damage really to they won't do any damage to the infantry, but they might do some damage to Teclis. They're at least threatening, and then they will be able to like fly over and kill the models that are wizards in the unit, which really lowers the effectiveness of this. Also, if you put the Aether Eater host inside the Host Arcanum, so Host Arcanum is the sub-faction, and that's like everyone's all about that at the minute. Like, there's some big love for the Host Arcanum, because you've got D3 flying units can make a 5-6 inch pregame move, which is really important. So then these guys can be effectively 21 inches just from their moving, and then they can charge. They also can automatically unbind a spell in the 1st, 3rd, and 5th battle round, which is pretty boss. And then obviously, as you can see here, whenever a model in this battalion unbinds a spell, that model heals D3. So that Herald of Tzeentch, that Burning Chariot, like, they don't have a lot of wounds, but there's also an artifact that you get for being in Host Arcanum, which is going to make you minus to be shot at. So they could be, like, arguably, you could have your characters on -2 to be shot at in the first turn, which is pretty effective for keeping them alive. And then also all the Screamers become battle line. So it seems like you could make like a very low drop army in this. You would have Blue Scribe, so you've got great spell outputs there. Herald on Burning Chariot's not bad. Herald of Disc is not great. But then you got the Herald of Tzeentch or the Burning Chariot are like both good. So, and there's also an artifact that you get in Host Arcanum to summon more Screamers. So if you wanted to go absolutely wild on Screamers, and you can go absolutely wild. I don't know if James, if you got the ability to like just do the math real quick, but if you take off 140 points and then a Herald of Tzeentch, the rest can just be Screamers, and then you can summon 6 more Screamers. So if you wanted like one of the it's negative to hit on the flame common. Sorry, Gabe. Appreciate that. Sorry. The negative to hit is on the in the flame coven, not in the Host Arcanum. I got that one. I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone. So yeah, like ultimately, I think that would be quite fun. Do you not think? Just having like 1 billion Sky Sharks.
That would be an absurd. Can you imagine you rock up to the table and your opponent like. Because they'd see the matchup, they'd be like, "Oh, disciples, here we go, change host, we're doing something, blah blah blah," and you look at them in the eye, like, "Hey, what's the scariest apex predator on the planet?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't know, great white shark," and you're like, "Correct." They're like, "Oh, damn, okay, he's got eels." No, wait a second, it said disciples of Tzeentch, and then you're like, "Sky sharks," and put them all down on your opponent. I think that it'd be intense for roughly 30 to 45 seconds. Until they probably realize they've got the capacity to work through it. However, it would be such a fast list. I mean, flip side.
I mean, yeah, they've only got 5 up save though, but because if they're wholly within range of a demon, they are going to be -1 to hit because they're demons themselves. So and they're 80 points. 80 points for 9 wounds isn't terrible. Ultimately, super fast.
You can take them in 12s.
You can take them in 12s. You could take a ton. And also, obviously, like we talk about, if you do some unbinding, but the problem is that kind of goes against the Tzeentch where they want to be casting spells because.
Okay.
Go on, James. What we got?
So it's 1 Fate Skimmer.
Yeah.
1 Aether Eats Host.
Yeah.
Aether Eater Host, and then you just want Screamers, right?
Yeah.
12, 24, 36, 48. 50, 60, 63.
And 63. And you get an odd number.
Oh, how did I do that? That's bad math. So it's 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, and a 3.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So
5 12s and a 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, 63.
That's 63. Yeah.
Nice.
Woo!
And then
Math.
you can, and hold on, ladies and gentlemen. Then you can summon 6 more.
69, your favoritist number.
Perfect.
Did you already know? You already knew that.
Oh, maybe I knew that.
Doesn't matter. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey, and the journey you took on us to get there, Rob, was amazing.
So 69 Screamers, which would be great. You could do them all as little dildos. You could have a great time. I don't suggest that, but
Can we confirm as well? Their weapon is called a fanged mouth, and I have seen the movie Teeth. For those who haven't, just never watch it. It'll leave you uncomfortable for years.
Dear God. However, come on, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
So like you could just max them out, which is fun.
So far, this is the list I want you to do next week. This week. This is where I'm at so far.
I agree. Screamers everywhere.
Okay. All right. Well, also, as Joe Cryer is saying in the chat, you can have the Relic for +1 to wound and the Fate Master for rerolling all hits. Fate Master obviously is going to be something we talk about a lot, so his aura for reroll hits is so useful again with the Flamers we talked about before, but that's going to see a lot of play. So Aether Eater Host, I feel to me, is like a big pass. Like, it allows you to make a really stupid army, completely spam a thing, or if you don't want to spam a thing, obviously it gives you a few more options. It's not the most expensive battalion. It doesn't do anything useful, though. You know, whenever a model in this battalion unbinds a spell that heals D3 wounds, that's okay, but that's not really a big deal. It's quite nice to croak.
The blue scribe, though, does he not? He auto casts, right? Or casts on a tour?
Yeah.
So does that also work for his dispel?
No.
Oh, okay. So I was going to say, like, to guarantee, like, if you've only got to roll a 2 up each turn to heal him D3 when someone's trying to pick him off, that would have been quite cool.
Mm-hmm. But you do have Destiny dice.
That is true. I think, like, the ability to almost well, so with Destiny Dice to guarantee basically a D3 heal on a hero model that you want to keep alive could be quite big, I would say. I mean, there's probably 140 points in it.
I think so. Dan, you got any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it and thinking for 140 points, if you were to go minimum, like the Fate Skimmer, you'd probably go the Blue Scribes. But let's say you went minimum and went Fate Skimmer and 3 units of Screamers. It's your chaff, gets you the command point and the artifact, which is awesome. But between that and knowing you've got Destiny Dice, being able to say, let's say you end up with turn 1 and you know your opponent relies on a couple of key spells. Being able to flick your Screamers up the board and use Destiny Dice to guarantee the unbind on it, that actually that wouldn't be a bad thing, especially with how many armies rely on their well, this is my I'm Iron Jaws or whatever, and I rely on Hand of Gork to get these guys across the board turn 1, or I rely on this to know that you can shut that down and guarantee it. That's not bad. I don't think. I mean, I know that Tzeentch probably has a lot of different ways to do it, but it wouldn't be too bad.
It would at least be fun as well. All right, next one, the Altakin Coven. And also Cygnus Maximus is just pointing out that 69 Screamers is 207 wounds with a 5-up save, but it's still plenty of wounds ultimately.
It's a lot to get through.
Yeah, it is, and it's also fast. And don't forget that you're rolling, like we talked about. If you do manage to fly over units, I know you're never going to be able to fly all of them over, but 69 5-ups.
Can you imagine?
Mortal wounds. Yeah.
Can you imagine? I'm just going to roll 69 dice.
So that's quite fun. And then if there are any monsters on the board, you might be able to go into a couple of monsters and just chew them to pieces. I thought that would be quite interesting, but anyway. So then the Altakin Coven is 140 points. It's 1, the Sky Sharknado, Hulkbat. Correct. I'm going to write that down. That's the name for my new list. Thank you very much. The Altakin Coven is 1 unit of Carrick Acolytes, 1 unit of Zangors, and 1 unit of Zangor Skyfires. So have you guys got that to hand, the actual wording, by any chance?
Yes.
Yes.
Altakin Coven?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want the... I'm just going to read it all. Enemies of the Altakin Coven are under the constant threat of mutation, the unluckiest of them ending up transmogrified into a Zangor.
Great.
So it's 1 unit of Carrick Acolytes, 1 unit of Zangors, and 1 unit of Zangor Skyfires. And at the end of the charge phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of a friendly unit from this battalion. On a 6, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. If any models are slain by this ability, before removing the first slain model, you can add 1 Zangor model to an existing Zangor unit in your army. If you do, set up that Zangor model within 1 inch of a friendly Zangor unit that is within 9 inches of the slain model.
Jesus.
The model can be set up within 3 inches of an enemy unit if the friendly Zangor unit was within 3 inches of that enemy unit before any models were added.
How's the tequila head going?
Oh my gosh, so many measurements. It's like someone was like, hey, you know what Tzeentch players love? Complexity. And so they just went, there's what, 1? Where
I feel
I'm reading
Rob
it
set
2,
this whole show
3,
up. I feel like
4.
he made me read that because he knew how bad it was.
There are, in that one rule, sorry, just to confirm for everyone, in that one ability, there are 5 range measurements required to do that for that one ability, and then dice rolls. Okay, congratulations. Snaps for whoever wrote the Tzeentch book. You wrote a book that makes me feel the way that it must feel to have to deal with Tzeentch. Can you imagine if you were the guards at a free city and you're like, oh, we got a Tzeentch cult. Everyone would just go, not because they have to fight them, not because they're scary, but just because they're like, this is going to be the biggest pain in the ass. Bust out the Sudoku. We need to get ready for this.
It's my favorite one.
I hate it. It hurts. That hurts me.
But to quickly, to just put it down real quick. If a model dies from the battalion, you get to add a model to a Zangor unit. within range. Yeah. See what James just said. Okay, so it's pretty simple, which is kind of cool because it's pseudo summoning, and you could go like pretty wild.
But it's on a 6, isn't it?
It is on a 6, Nathan. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not the strongest ability ever, but it's not bad.
Well, it's a strong ability. It's just not very reliable.
It's not very reliable.
It's not that strong, actually. It's only 1 Zangor, isn't it?
It's only 1 Zangor, but a Carrick Acolyte for a Zangor is just such an upgrade.
What?
No, you kill an
You don't have
enemy
to
unit,
give
don't
up
you?
anything, do you? You just take one of their models and turn it into a Zangor and give it to yourself.
Yeah, so you're killing an enemy unit and turning it into a Zangor.
Yes. Why wouldn't you want to do that though?
I mean,
yeah,
I wouldn't want to
that's
do all the
correct.
measurements. I almost feel like the actually good wording on this, because the interesting part is that you can put a Zangor in any unit, isn't it? It's not that you can put a Zangor in the unit that's done the damage.
Yeah, no, it's any
Yeah.
old unit. Well, any unit of Zangor, I assume.
Any Zangor.
Yeah.
You can add 1 Zangor to an existing Zangor, and then to Zangor, you have to Zangor within 9 inches of the Zangor, but only within 3 inches of the not Zangor if the Zangor were within 3 inches of the not Zangor before you Zangored.
Yeah, but it would give you, as Desert Sketch is saying, you would have so much goddamn fun. Imagine you killed a Mega Gargant, you're like, he's a Zangor now. Yeah. Like, the ability to just trigger your opponent and be like, kill that fella, he's a Zangor now, which would be super fun. And also, we need to talk about the Change Covenant as well. The Cult of the Transient Form. Yeah? So they've got an ability called the Change Gift. On death of a Carrick Acolyte, there'll be some Carrick Acolytes in this list, model, roll a dice. On a 2 to 5, it can fight. And on a 6, add a Zangor unit within 1 inch of a Zangor unit within 9 inches of the slain model. So, you kill a dude, Zangor on a 6. You die, get a Zangor on a 6. The model, and then there's all those other restrictions as well, right? What about that? So then you'd be like, I'm just going to keep rolling 6s, baby. Yeah?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because also, it's keyword Zangor, so it's not a we're not adding.
So you can
just
add a Skyfire.
Yeah.
Skyfire. Oh, okay, cool.
So that's what makes it stronger, I think.
No, you can't add a Skyfire. No, you can only do
Why?
Zangor on foot. You can't. No. You can only do
Why?
Zangor on foot. Because it's in the FAQ. Someone obviously asked that. Someone's like, can I just prop
Ugh.
Zangor all day? Yeah.
Well, that makes it annoying.
I know.
Well, it would be weird if it's like someone's standing there and it's like, oh, he's turning into a Zangor, and
A
his
disc!
shoes are turning into a disc.
Yeah.
Okay, where do those discs come from originally?
Shoes,
they
obviously.
They capture them out the sky.
Is that real?
Well, they're natural things.
I want
that
the
just fly
someone in
around
this
the
chat must
sky.
know the narrative. Where do those discs come from?
No one's ever read that in the history of time. Yeah.
Zangor
It's actually a demon, isn't
Skyfires
it?
don't have the Zangor keyword.
No, they don't. They have the Zangor Skyfire keyword.
Is this the Grot book?
No, but we did. There used to be some fun interactions with the Zangor keyword previously, so they've partitioned them out. That's what they've done. So what about it? What about look? Come on. Now I know it's not necessarily the strongest battalion. It doesn't get you a 1-drop, let's say. It doesn't give you all of the battle line that you maybe need. But if you put it into a fun little, if you put it into the transient host subfaction, you would end up having a fun time. You kill a dude, maybe get a Zangor. They kill a dude, maybe get a Zangor. You just be trying to get Zangors all day, which would be quite fun. Zangors aren't great themselves. I've also said the word Zangor a lot, but I think ultimately you'd be able to have like quite a fun little party with this list.
Are you pushing
would
to
be
get
weird.
to play this tomorrow morning?
I think so.
Oh.
But you think no?
You don't want to play 59 Skyfires? 69
69.
Skyfires?
No, I don't. Not Skyfires either. You mean no? Well, I just thought this would be quite fun. I thought, ultimately, but like maybe it's not. Maybe it'd be, yeah. Okay, fair enough.
I mean,
Fair
you
enough.
need to go a maximum unit of Zangors and Acolytes to have big enough units that they survive long enough to get anything out of it, right?
Well, no,
'Cause
because no. So the unit of So if any of the Zangors or the Zangor Skyfires kill a unit, so if you do any damage, if you come against a horde, you come against grots, you're laughing. You generate like if you killed 60 grots, not the easiest thing in the world because of the netters. But you could potentially get, if you actually wiped them out, you could generate yourself 10 Zangor. Like, and then if they killed any guys back, like you could, like if you had 40 acolytes, you could generate yourself 5, 6 new Zangor. Like, you sat on 16 Zangor now. Like, you could do probably not that much with, but
but they were free.
Fine, huh?
They were free. You got them cheap.
Okay, I feel like you all think this is shit. So
I'm coming around to it. I just feel like there's more fun stuff.
Okay, all right. That's fair.
I think the biggest weakness to like the battalion's good in some ways, and I think like because I'm gonna try and bring it back a little bit. But like I think obviously we're talking about these, aren't we? And trying to talk about people using them. And I think if you were sat on a ton of Zangor, great. Like it would be a laugh to play. You get to take a load of extra models. There's a good chance you get to do a load of extra summoning. But I don't think this, like the Skyfire one, not Skyfire, Screamer one, like I think would be a laugh whatever day of the week. Whereas this one I feel like is one you probably wouldn't want to go and buy all the Zangor for.
Okay. Fair enough.
What do you mean? You wouldn't buy all the Zangor for this?
No, because they're also not the best score.
That's true. They're not.
And that is the thing I feel strongly about.
So you guys not giving the Ultra King Coven a pass?
I give it. I did it out of 5 last week, so this week I'm going to do out of 7.5. So I'll give it a 4.32 out of 7.5.
Nathan, you got any thoughts on this?
How many points is it again?
It's 140 points. Still cheaper than the Trog Herd.
Yeah, it's
Isn't everything?
Yeah.
most expensive battalion. Yeah, I'd say it's okay, but it's not. I mean, if you want to play with Zangor, go for it. At least you get a battalion, get some command points, extra artifacts, and a headache. So yeah, go for it.
Okay. Right, next one is the Arcanite Cabal. It's 140 points, and it requires you to take 3 to 9 Magisters. I used to love this battalion. And it's got Fate Masters or Zangor Shamans in any combination of those Magisters. Okay? So, after setup, pick one hero from this battalion. Each time that hero spends a Destiny dice, roll a dice. On a 2+, you may add that dice to your back to your Destiny pool. Rules as written. So there we go. It's that simple. It's 140 points. It's 3 to 9 Magisters, Fate Master, or Zangor Shamans in any combination. So not a lot to unpack there, really. Fate Master, a key point in the Tzeentch book, because of that command ability, which allows you to reroll all to hit units, hits for units wholly within 9 inches. And then actually, having said that, the Magister has got like something going for him as well. If you guys want to hear about it, he's got the Bolt of Change, which is an 18-inch casting spell that you cast. And if you do kill a model, you do end up with being able to get a spawn from the model. So, so you've got all rerolls to hit, and then you kill something and you get a spawn, which I think is very fun.
Or that model's the one that came with the last box set, KO Tzeentch box set, was it?
Yeah, well,
the Eighth War one, yeah.
So there's actually a Magister on disc, and then there's a Magister on foot. So they're actually different. They both have Bolt of Change, and they both have the Magic Touch ability, which is basically if you roll a casting roll of a double for this unit, you get to cast an extra spell, which works really well. Obviously, with all the summoning that you're going to want for Tzeentch. But then if you do roll another double, then he is unfortunately slain. However, on a 2-up, you generate another Chaos Spawn, which is hilarious.
I love, like, when they brought out that box set, I wasn't particularly excited. Tzeentch isn't an army I've ever hugely wanted to play. But the minute someone was like, this person goes around the board, turns people into spawn, I was like, That's a great rule. Like I'd love, like I think almost, I know we talked about it a minute ago, that bit where we're like, oh, you do Dzangor. I think it would be more fun to like annihilate Nagash and be like, now he's a spawn.
Go on, Dan.
So I kind of dig. My favorite thing are when you turn opponents' models into stuff because it hurts them. It hurts me when it happens to me. I remember playing in the old like this Warhammer Fantasy and turning Nagash into a Herald of Chaos. Into a Herald of Chaos because he failed his like leadership test or something. It was absurd rules back then. But even the dreaded 13th spell, turning people into clan rats and stuff, it's great. It hurts him, and I kind of dig that. I really like this battalion as well because if you think about it, big part of the fun in playing Tzeentch is those Destiny dice. Now, personally, I hate them and I don't like them. However, if you're playing Tzeentch, Destiny dice are there. I also love that you get you can take 3 different casters, so you're not doubling up on signature spells anywhere.
So it's a good point. I would say that there's also another fun element that you can add to this as well. Is that you also have the Zangor Shaman, who also has another spell, the Boon of Mutation, which is another 18-inch D3 mortal wound spell, which again causes you to generate another spawn. Yeah, so you could just be generating spawn, well, at least 2 a turn out of different units, which is kind of fun. Depending on which way you decide to play the rest, like which change coven you decide to go with, ultimately. So
I think this is the best one so far.
You think this is the best one? This is rubbish.
I think this is the best one so far because all I can think in my head is right. Tzeentch, God of change, mischief, kerfuffle. Like nothing is more mischievous than turning someone's models into a spawn.
You can just take those models anyway outside of this terrible battalion.
Okay, so what's the battalion getting me?
You get to pick one hero from the battalion, and whenever they use the Destiny dice, you can generate a new one on a 2+.
Yeah, but just think, so then you can guarantee that D3 mortal wounds. So we're going to stay with it because I like it. And I'm just thinking, so in my head, stay with me.
I'm ready.
So, all of them turn up for battle. They're like, we're wizards. Where are we going today? Old Lord Tzeentch. And he's like, right, lads, me brother. He's pissed me off. I'm like, all right, which one? He's like, that boring one. Oh, can't wait to piss on him. He doesn't even like magic. They turn up to battle. Their opponent's there. He's got some bloodthirsters, the most powerful demons of all of Khorne. Spawn.
Well, see, I've unfortunately got it wrong because the Zangor Shaman doesn't add spawn anymore. He adds Zangor. So I got that wrong.
He can do one. We'll just have loads of those spawn guys. And just imagine how annoyed a Khorne player would be when you turn their bloodthirster into a spawn. And they can't even stop it. What they're dispelling it with.
It's true. I mean, their blood tithe points probably.
What a waste.
That's true.
Nah, boring.
Maverick, if you generate a spawn in the host of blisters, you force the enemy to retreat or be stuck in combat since set within 3 inches of the unit. It would still count as a host of blisters spawn, or it should do, because it's inside the sub-faction and not battalion. Stuff summoned out of a battalion is normally not part of the battalion, but stuff summoned in your sub-faction is normally part of the sub-faction. So you can do that. When you turn the bloodthirster into spawn, it suddenly gets better in the game, which I think is good.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't think this has a lot of legs because as much as the 3 support characters are super fun, they're all fragile. I mean, they're all good in their own right. All 3 of them bring some good utility with their spellcasting and or their command ability. There'd be a reason necessarily. Probably the weakest of those would be the Zangor Shaman, but the Zangor Shaman does give you access to the Endless Spell from Beast of Chaos, which is quite cool. And for some Always Strikes Last, and is generally a good spell. And if you were taking other gore for some reason, you could potentially double this up and try and generate some more into our gore factory at this point, Dan. You could double out the Arcanite Cabal with the Arcanite Cabal with the Altar King Coven, and you could be trying to like get as many gore into a unit as possible. Could be fun, but it would take you a long time to make that happen, is all I'm going to say.
You know what would be hilarious, though, would be to do it and then at the end of the game have created a whole fresh unit of Zangor. Like just across the game, you're like, what did you? I generated 30 Zangor. And I mean, sure, not doing a crazy amount, but that would just be a weird flex. You'd be like, yeah, cool. So across the nature of this game, you gave me a whole free unit. Thank you. I mean, you could have just taken Pink Horrors and gotten multiple free units because they're abjectly awful. But this would be a much more interesting way to do it, much more creative, I think. It's the Jackson Pollock of summoning.
I think it should just be you playing your own game and everyone else being like, what the fuck is going on? Nathan, you got any thoughts on this?
I mean, Destiny dice are pretty
Strong.
fucking good. And so if you're getting them back on a 2-up every time you use them, that's all right.
Yeah.
I'd pay points for that. It's just whether you want that combination of dudes. So, yeah. If it's a valid combination of dudes, then yeah, fair enough. But otherwise, maybe it's a bit of a struggle. But the Destiny dice are just key thing. Oh, they're just proper horrible, so probably people want them.
They probably do. Yeah. Okay, all right. I don't think this is the best, unfortunately, and you can't even make something very memey and fun. But maybe you could double it up with something if you wanted to, and end up with like a double battalion, which would be interesting for the CP, because obviously you're quite CP starved, because as we talked about before, that command ability that you're going to find on the Fate Master is so important for reroll hits. It's so important, because you could stick that, have some flamers nearby, and then he's rerolling all their hits. Pink Horrors is the same. I mean, even on any of the combat units, having all those reroll hits would be quite useful. So it's kind of interesting, I think, ultimately. All right. So next up. So it needs no introductions, none at all. It in of itself, people are like, you playing Change Host? It's like, no, I'm playing Tzeentch. They're like, isn't that what Change Host means? Is the Change Host. So 180 points, 1 Lord of Change, and in any combination, 8 of Horror Hero, Exalted Flamer, Horrors of Tzeentch, Flamers, Screamers, or Burning Chariots. They might as well have just said that 1 Lord of Change and whatever the fuck you want.com.
Yeah.
In the Change Host.
And your army. Is, 1 Lord of Change and your army.
Yeah. 1 drop. Here you go. Easy peasy. It's 180 points. And then it's been FAQ'd for over a year now. But at the start of each of your hero phases, as long as the Lord of Change is alive, you can redeploy 1, not 2. It used to be 2. One other unit from this battalion to anywhere more than 9 inches from the enemy models. They can't move in the following movement phase, but obviously you can still charge. Basically, overcosted, says Cameron Weaver. I would disagree with that heavily. Do we even need to talk about it? We don't need to talk about it much. Let's just talk about why you see it so much, just in case someone's new and they're like, listen to these guys. They're like, fucking, when are they going to talk about the Tzeentch thing? Right, so what I suppose the reason that it's so popular, other than the fact that you get CP, and obviously you get the fact, who is fiddling with their microphone? Is it you?
Me. Yeah, I've got this fucking string thing that comes out the side. It's playing in the
I've been trying to work out which one of you it's been for like an hour.
That's me all the while. Yeah.
I knew it, but I didn't want to judge. Obviously, you get the CP, you get the artifact. Obviously, they're super useful as well. And the important part here is it gets to be a 1-drop, and you get to include your whole fucking army in it. And that's why you see it all the time. The redeploy is obviously super useful in loads of different ways. Doing it in a multitudinous host, so you can just you can teleport, and then you can just 9-inch. You could just auto choose a Destiny dice. I think this is where we get to have a very interesting conversation between this week and last week, because we don't really need to talk about the fact that it's great. It's great. It will win you tournaments. It's super good. Let's talk about the difference between this Battle Tome and the Battle Tome City Sigmar that we did last week, because this battalion is brilliant, but it's also brilliant in any of the change hosts that you want to put. The change covens, the sub-factions that you want to put it in. Versus last week when we saw maybe we wanted to put one of the other battalions in one of the other cities, but that's just not possible at all. And I think that's what makes Change Host also so good, is that it's not locked into Guild of Summoners. It's you could take it in multi-tuners host, or not multi-tuners host. Sorry, you could take it in the sub-factions, is what I'm saying, basically.
It's awesome.
Nathan, you got any thoughts on the difference between the two, the disparity between the two books?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just mind-boggling how good this is compared to just about any other battalion in the world. Fucking NATO are phoning up asking if they can use one in there.
No, I believe, you know what, I actually heard that this is that the Lord of Change is actually, that bloke who had the horns and the face paint that did the thing in the building earlier this week.
Oh, yeah.
I heard that this was the formation they used to get past security, because then they could just switch with
They
people.
just redeployed inside.
Yeah.
9 inches away from the Senate.
That's how they did it. That's exactly how it happened.
And then they just Destiny Dice to 666, and they were in there.
Straight in.
They were like, they grabbed all the objectives. The dude who stole the podium, he's actually a Kraken eater, because that's why he could yeet and move the objective
Been
with
arrested
him.
now.
Yeah, great. Just to throw that one in there.
It's hard not to talk about a genuine insurrection that occurred earlier this week. It's like, were you guys there for that revolution? They're like, insurrection. It's like, no, actually, I was doing some sit-ups or something. Oh, that's quite weird. It was all on Twitter.
My favorite part is we're talking about Tzeentch. It's exactly the right time to be talking about Tzeentch.
Yeah, perfect. It's super strong. James, you got any thoughts between the disparity between the two, between Cities of Sigmar and what we've seen obviously here?
I think it's that really interesting thing, isn't it? Like, if we go back to and people obviously that sat with us that are here this week, or anyone that goes back and watches it, I think when we go through them, we took all that time to kind of talk about them and why they work and why they were in that city. And I think almost having to deep dive those battalions last week, I feel like one of the things that really kind of was apparent was how much someone had sat and obviously thought right, I'm going to make this book narrative. Hammerhall, why are they a bunch of griffins? Why does this work? Why is that? Why is Living City still kind of wood elves, etc.? And I feel like the differences in this book is someone's just wrote battalions for the game, and it's and that's both are fine. So you want to write battalions that work in the army, and someone can then choose their models, but they can also choose their sub-faction and the other buffs they get. Great. Yes. You want to write narrative battalions that only work in specific cities, kind of good because it has a cool narrative feel. Great. Then when you go, let's put them in the same game. That's when I think it's that. I know we talk about it on the show at other points, and probably mostly FAQs, when we talk about internal and external parity.
Nice, well done.
That's going to be impressive.
Good.
What the hell?
He's just sucking up to the teacher now. Don't worry about it. He's up at the front of the bus being like, I did my homework, sir.
But realistically, I think that's the more that for me, that's the bigger debate. The bigger debate is that the battalions work and they're cool. And I think my problem with Change Host is it's horrible to play, but I also know when you go through that book, you're like, why wouldn't I take this?
Yeah, that's the kind of key part ultimately, because more than anything, other than what you get, the ability wise, and the ability is obviously fantastic as well. A teleport, and don't forget it was initially two changes around.
Yeah.
Well, my favourite was I watched someone play it originally when all they would do is be like, here's my giant bird, he teleports in your face, he casts 92 spells, he teleports out of your face, have a good day.
Yes.
You'd be like, I'm not having a good day, but that's just done that.
But it's not that anymore. It is at least at the start of the hero phase, and it's only one unit. So it's basically it's a free teleport for one of the units in the book, which is just wild.
A free guaranteed unstoppable teleport as well.
Which a lot of when you can again have those horrors in there, max unit of horrors that you just ring your opponent into their deployment zone and go, you're not getting out of this until end of turn 2, top of turn 3 at the best.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of options for it, but I think what it really brings to the table is the fact that it's a 1-drop. I think that's what it really brings to the table. It's like, because you do have a it's a 1-drop with a teleport. You have a very fragile character in the Lord of Change, and I do mean that. Like, it's not very survivable as 12 wounds with a 4-up save. Compare it to other models, it's like, just sat there, like, he's like, listen, I'm a chicken who's also a bloodthirster, like, please don't hurt me. Like, I'm not long, I might have 14 wounds, actually. I forget about that, but it might have more. It's been a while. So, has it got 14 wounds? What change? 14 wounds, yeah, thanks. So, Zangor Jack says, I hate that I'm forced to play Change Host. Every game of my Zangors is just disappointing. I just don't play Change Host anymore because it's egregious. I think that's the other thing as well. Like, it stands out so much inside this book. So much. Like, taking Techless and taking the Spell Portal. Like, you know that you're not taking the Spell Portal when you're playing Techless. You're like, I know I didn't bring the Spell Portal. Like, you don't, like, do you know what I mean? You're clapping yourself on the back. Or you'll be like, why have I done this to myself? Like, Nathan, that must how you must feel every time you don't take the Gobblepalooza. You're like, why am I nerfing myself this hard?
Yeah, well, you know, sometimes you want your opponent to have a fun game. You can just see when you start rolling the no-what's rolls, their fucking eyes roll back in their head because they know they're done for. Well, they don't know what the fuck's going on anyway.
Mostly it's that. I think it's more,
Mostly
Nathan, it's more that their eyes are rolling back in their head because they've had an aneurysm trying to keep up with the madness.
Watching a half-cut Zimbabwean scream at someone, Boggle-Eye's gonna roll his you-know-what's roll, yeah, is the funniest thing ever because he's like, fuck it, I don't know what's happening, but I'm in. I'm on the bus and I'm ready for this journey.
And just to throw it out there as well, because I remember when I first encountered Change Host, I didn't understand and why we're saying it is just so good. There isn't any level of sacrifice to take it. There is no downside to it. It's 180 points and
all
it's
the
worth
good units are in it.
far more. It's not that it's a Lord of Change and then just units. So if you were to put your whole army in it, you only have one hero, one leader. You can put all of the leader units that you want in it. It's all demons, which are the strongest units in the book. There is literally no downside to taking it. Yeah.
Oh, go on. No, I was going to say the only negative is that the most important unit, other than probably the most important unit in the Tzeentch book, really for standalone, like other than like Pink Horrors and whatnot, is that Fate Master. That command ability for rerolls to hit on everyone is just wild. So good, so strong. And so sometimes you will see like a 2-drop because someone's put something else in there. I think it's the fact that if you wanted to, you could put the Change Host into. You could put it into obviously Host Arcanum if you wanted to, for some reason you wanted to like push everything up and you wanted to get those unbinds. You could put it in Host Duplicitous. So obviously the opponent can't run away. You could put it into internal conflagration. So if you had loads of horrors in this list, they've all now got rend just because, which is just wild.
I hate you.
Yeah, which is just wild. So like it's the multi-layered factor of the fact that it's such a good battalion, but also you can put it into whichever buff. So I can take almost any unit and any combination in the battalion, and then I can put it into any sub-faction which gives those units buffs in any combination, and that's why.
I was just going to say, I think like that's a crazy thing as well, isn't it? Like, there's a lot of people in the chat tonight. How many armies is there that have a battalion where it's like, basically take any model from the book?
Yeah.
Here's a good battalion. Basically take what you want.
Yeah. Not many anymore.
And the only, and like through this whole discussion, the only negative that's been brought up about the Change Host is that to get the most kind of key buff piece in the book for him, you need to make yourself a 2-drop. Like, oh my gosh. Like, just get up there on the cross, Tzeentch players, because clearly you've got such a burden. Like, oh, I have to be a 2-drop to have
never want to be a 2-drop.
Like a top tier army. Like, and we really are seeing like it's interesting because you look at a lot of books and they've swerved hard away from 1-drops. Like really, really hard. Or if you are going to be a 1-drop, you're tied into a very specific list that like with kind of pros and cons. Whereas then you look at Tzeentch, which only came out in 2020, and you look at Tzeentch and it's like, oh yeah, Change host. There you go. Best one in the game. Super easy. Just plug and play. Go and do it. Whereas it disappoints me that we didn't see in the I like the way they did the cities battalions. I really did. But like we were talking about the parity between books, cities doesn't have like a Dwarden shield wall battalion or a I don't know, a free guild.
The thing is to be fair to this book, I feel like this book is quite well done. Like, ignore like maybe the over-egged power at initial launch. Yeah, we'll ignore that. Yeah, and also the internal disparity between, let's say, Zangor and some other units in the book. Like, there are some obviously standout good units, so the internal parity can be off. But the overarching rules, quite cool. The change host, the change covens, quite cool. Like, they've got some adaptability, they've got some nuance to them, very much like the Seraphon book. Points could be moved around, and obviously internal balances could be sorted. Always, that's going to be a thing. Whereas the cities book, I think, is actually the one that's the lazy effort. I agree with you, Dan. I feel like you could have easily had like a Dwarden Shield Wall battalion like you talked about, and then that could have been, you could put that in Living City, you could put that in Halahart, you could put that in anything else, right? You could have had the keyword locked ones, and then you could have easily had like, you know, like a Wild Rider one or whatever you wanted it to be. You could have had some good ones. So it's a shame that they're not there at the minute. But it does mean that you can have a very adaptable army. It also means you can build like the same change host and just give yourself different buffs match to match. Not like in a tournament setting, but like you can play around, which is fun.
Yeah, the change host is vibrant, and I genuinely mean that when I say it. Oh, look at me using words when I feel like a death. But like it's vibrant in that you can take your change host and build that list, and then transplant it into whatever you want to get a different vibe. Like, how many armies get to do that? That's why it's a good book, and you can see why so many people are tempted by it.
Yeah, well, that's enough on that thing that we weren't meant to talk about much, but we did. So how
many points is it?
It's 180 points, same as a Trogherd.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
You got any thoughts on it, Nate?
It's pretty good, isn't it?
That'll do. That's perfect.
It's pretty good.
Little Chris in the chat said, who was doing a smashing face with Change Host last year, I'd just like to point out, and Tzeentch generally, said I don't like Change Host in the current meta. Seraphon isn't winnable. KO Ineth, though, is, though, against good players, though they smash everything else. I was talking to my friend Mr. Benjamin Sava, not to doubt Little Chris, who's a smashing player and does really well at tournaments. My friend Benjamin, who was talking about, I think he, at the Butcher's team event that's going on TTS at the minute, he is running, so that's Chris Jr., sorry, Little Chris Jr. Benjamin was talking, he is running a change host in the host Duplicitous, and he says he doesn't think it can ever lose. His exact words. He was like, I don't know how you lose with this list, is what he said.
That's a heavy flex. That's a heavy flex.
And I was like, don't you worry about it. I'm sure some people can. Right, so then the next one is the multitudinous host. So, and why is that so good? If you take the host Duplicitous, enemy units within 3 inches of your army cannot retreat. So you can just like teleport, charge in with some pinks, let's say. Your opponent can never retreat. Pretty wild. Right, the multitudinous host is a 160-point warp scroll battalion. It requires you to have 1 change caster and then 8 units of horrors. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. So don't forget, horrors are all 3 of the horrors now. In every friendly hero phase, you return D3 slain models to each horror unit, and so in every friendly hero phase, you return D3 slain models to this unit. Now, I've actually run this as well, and it's D3 slain models. I've run this. Nathan, you and me played a game where I played this, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was loads of things coming back after.
Yeah, it was super fun. It was super fun. So D3 slain models to each horror unit, and then also the obvious throw in there. So this is a change caster and 8 units of horrors. A fun little trick you can do here is obviously throw in Emerald Life Swarm as well, if you wanted to. And then if you just make sure you get yourself a big brick of pink horrors, so let's say 20 is a fun number, you can start generating those slain pink horrors back into the unit, Dan, which is a wild old time. And you really could go ham on this, and you could try to make this so like you return D3, you return D6, you're looking for those ones to return from the banner, to return those 10. So you could do a whole bunch of funky fun stuff to your own army, which I quite like.
And
but
get units that end up bigger than they started.
yeah.
'Cause it also means all of those like line spells where you like draw a line 9 inches long, and you're like, great, through my unit. You're like, why are you doing that? You're like, because they're coming back. So I turn my pinks into blues, and then I resummon my pinks. Have fun.
That is fun. It is fun, but the thing about it is that's all you really get. And one of the big problems with the Tzeentch book, if you've ever played with it like properly, is it actually lacks output. Depending on how you build it. That's why flamers are so popular, is because really they actually will do the damage, which unlike pink horrors won't actually do any damage. They're just there to hold objectives and sit there.
And annoy people.
And annoy people. You can do some medium level damage into the mid range through spells and other stuff, but you don't have access to like massive combat punch. You do maybe in some Skyfires, but they're very aggressively costed. Still more expensive than eels, I'd like to point out, by 20 points, which is just insane. But not that I'm advocating for Skyfires to get cheaper, but like the fact that eels aren't the same price is hilarious. Kurnoth Hunters sat at the same price.
What do you mean? Kurnoth Hunters are so key.
I
said, what do you mean? Kurnoth Hunters are so key.
So important. Yeah. So the multitudinous host, what are your thoughts? I quite like it because I think it's a fun war scroll battalion that you and your opponents can like have a fun time with, like just bringing them back. And yeah, it's pink horrors, but I actually love the horror mechanic. I've said this time and time again on the show. I know it's not necessarily the most fun thing to play against, but there's something like, who knows? There's something that catches your imagination, and they've got it for me. I find them hilarious. I find them annoying, and that the more they're annoying, the more funny I get. Like, I imagine Nathan does nothing but giggle with glee every time he goes, actually, they're in range of a netter. Like, I hate them. I hate them. People are like, nerf pink horrors. I'm like, nerf netters. Like, I will go to the mat on this. Like, I'll burn my Twitter account to the ground on this one situation. That netters are worse than pink horrors. I will do it. I will say that forever. But Nathan finds them hilarious, and you love them, right, Nate?
Yeah, they're great.
I think horrors are great.
See, I genuinely, okay, I'll say something I never thought I would, is that I agree with you. I actually love the pinks splitting into blues, splitting into brimstones. I genuinely do dig on that. I think that's really cool. I just think that they're too hard to kill. Like for me, they should be just about ready to burst at any given moment, and like the slightest little poke kills them.
Can't kill magic.
Can't kill magic. That's very good. However, in this, I actually do dig it. It's kind of hilarious, just because that's what I imagine it would be like. Like you're killing them, you're standing there slaying them, and then they just keep popping back up, laughing at you and how impotent you are. Like I kind of dig that. They shouldn't then be, pinks in particular, shouldn't be as hard to kill as they sometimes are.
Agreed.
I mean, what are you hitting them with?
Okay.
They've got a 6-up save.
Yeah, but it's just the time you need to invest in killing them properly, because you've got to kill the pinks and then kill the blues and then kill the brims.
So what you're saying is you want to kill all of them and the younglings too?
Absolutely, I do. Sith all the way, baby.
I love
Darth
them.
Vader's only mistake was not committing hard enough.
See. Now I like this. I like this battalion, and you could obviously take this in. You can take this so that your opponent can't retreat, which is super fun.
Didn't think about
you
that.
could take it in the internal conflagration. So if you did take loads of horrors, all the horrors would end up giving you. They'd all end up getting rend, which is quite fun. You could put, like I say, you could put life swarm in there as well to try and max that out. And really, you're just trying to sit around. The major issue is that they can suffer to battle shock. So like you do have to be a bit clever. You do have to organize your army quite well. And yet it's a massive grind. It would like be playing. It would be pretty grim ultimately to play against this and to play with this. After like 20 games, you'd be like, yeah, I'm probably bored of just watching you smash horrors. Like I imagine a Gargant player and a multitudinous host Tzeentch player must just be like, yeah, we both kind of hate our armies. Like we just stand in this objective and whack each other until the game ends. Like I get it, but also it's kind of cool. So I like this one. I'm just gonna say it. I like it. Anyone got any other thoughts on that before we move on?
Just described Age of Sigmar in a sentence. We stand there and just whack each other next to objectives.
But sometimes we whack each other near other objectives.
Yeah, it's just objectives and whacking each other off the objectives.
Good.
Jesus.
I'm not sure. I just don't think. I'm not sure that would be hugely exciting to play. But I think if you,
That's my point. That's why I compared it to Mega Gargants.
Yeah, it's also. However, I do think it's a list that you could probably win a lot of games with if you were like tactically a good player, because being able to reposition all those units into the right places would be really strong.
I agree.
What are you two good at?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I try to whisper, see if the microphone can pick me up going, hey Nathan, fuck you. But it doesn't pick it up. So, right.
Pardon?
Fuck you, Nathan. Right, Overseer's Fate Twisters. Is 160 points. It's 1 Lord of Change and +8 in any combination of Horror Hero, Exalted Flamer, or Burning Chariots. Every hero phase, you get another Destiny dice. Second, you get to reroll 1 Destiny dice every hero phase. Third, and as long as there are 9+ models in this battalion, I don't think you can actually get this into. Maybe you can get this into 8+ in any combination. I think you can get this in 2,000 points. 9+ models battalion. You can wait until after you've made the roll before you decide to sub the Destiny dice in. So that's it. So it's massive control again. So the Overseer's Fate Twisters. Massive control over the Destiny dice again, but I'm not certain if you can fit this in 2,000 points. I didn't actually do the math before we came onto the show, but it's basically the same thing that we said before. Combined with the battalion cost, you're looking at. Oh, okay, so you can get it in 2,000 points. So
who would have to be your? Would someone have to be your general in particular though, so that your so that the chariots become battle line, right?
Oh no, because you can have Horror Hero, Exalted Flamer, or Burning Chariots. Yeah. So you can do that. So it can fit. So first, every hero phase you get another Destiny dice. So you can just spam Destiny dice all day. You get to reroll 1 Destiny dice in every hero phase, and then third, you so long as
How
there
do
are
you
9+
reroll a Destiny dice?
You can reroll 1. Reroll 1 Destiny dice every hero phase. So you take
you
one
pick
out
it
the
up,
pool,
roll
re-roll
it, and whatever it was is your new. That's your new dice.
However, if there are 9+ models in the battalion, you can wait until after you've made a roll before you decide to sub it in. So
I mean, that's so strong. That's super strong.
Is it?
Yeah.
It doesn't get you anything.
Well, it does, doesn't it? So if you're like, I'm trying to cast against Teclis, I know he can unbind me. Let's say he's going to unbind me. I'll cast against Craig. He's got +4. What the fuck am I rolling? And then you roll and you're like, oh, there's a 12. I can't Destiny dice better than that. So then you get to keep your 6s.
So Joe, who's in the chat, is saying that it's fragile because it would be fragile, right? Because you don't have like any hordes of dudes to go and hold objectives. You've just got fucking burning chariots, like hoping to live your best life. It's cool that you get some Destiny dice, but you're not applying it to a particularly strong army. I mean, it would look awesome. Don't get me wrong. Let's just throw the baby out with bathwater for a minute. That's a fun army, right? There's a load of burning chariots. I'd be in for that. I think that's cool. Whether or not having just some extra Destiny dice is enough to only take burning chariots, I would probably not be in for that.
You never have to roll dice either. Like, that's fun. You don't need to bring dice to your game because you just choose the outcomes of the rolls. Yeah, that's true. That's it for your spells. I honestly, I kind of dig it though. I think it's fun. Yeah? It's almost like Flight of the Valkyrie or something like that, except the Tzeentchian cult version.
Well, so the burning chariots have got 6 wounds each, and they're on a 5-up save. Right? They've got their billow and warp flame attack, but like you can get a great shooting phase off with the burning chariots. Like, don't get me wrong, but then after that they're gonna hit you, and you have no wounds left on the board. So you like, I don't know what you would really do here. Maybe you could go super hardcore with the Lord of Change and casting spells. but I don't know what those Destiny dice would even really be used for, if that makes sense. I think is the kind of key part here. So
Passing saves. Passing
Saves.
saves. To live.
Shooting phase.
All right, fine. Do you guys are you down for this at all? Nate, you got any thoughts on this one?
I think you should play it tomorrow.
I'm not playing that one. What, with burning chariots?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm maybe with Nathan. Maybe you should.
I
play that
actually
one.
don't hate it. I don't hate it. I kind of like it.
Fuck
I
you.
hate it.
Fuck
Fuck
you.
you, Nathan. Well, you'd end up with Ren 2 on the warp flame attacks. So that's not nothing. If you took them, obviously in eternal conflagration, et flag, as I like to call it, and they've got et flag. So you could do some good work there. I just don't think it's got enough output. So William Aitken in the chat, big shout out to you. Thanks for joining us. Destiny dice are best when you have units that want a specific result, like horrors being able to respawn or Skyfires getting mortal wounds. I think they're really actually best for utility roles like casting and/or charges. I think that's where Destiny dice are super strong. You rarely get to like absolutely dictate the movement phase, and when you can, teleports +3 inches to charge, whether that be Gav or whether that be the Tidecaster. Like Tidecaster does it? Yeah, I think so. Like whatever the situation, you end up with those pluses to like charge or just the ability. I think that is the key to guarantee you can get somewhere is super key, and I think that's where the Destiny dice really excel. You get 9 Destiny dice at the start of the game, so you roll them at the start. So they're 9 random dice is what you end up with. Okay.
I thought it was 12.
It's
It's only
12.
9.
Fuck. A million people's like fucking balls just received their body at the idea of 12. Like 9's bad enough. It's just the worst. All right, okay. So that is that's that War Squad Battalion. So next one is the Omniscient Oracles, and I've played against this recently actually. So this is Kairos Fateweaver and 3 Lords of Change.
Heroes. Heroes.
Kind of. So you get to re-roll ones to hit, wound, and save rolls, which is fine, I guess.
For the models in the battalion.
For the models in the
Or
battalion,
for everyone.
Yeah, you get to... No, just for the models in the battalion.
Okay.
That's it.
I mean, they shouldn't be fighting, should they, really?
They
shouldn't be fighting.
Well, I mean, you can make some fighty ones. You can make some fighty ones and some shooty ones. And rerolling ones to hit, wound, and save rolls. Not bad. Not bad. I've played against this. It's kind of fun to play against. Like, when all 3 go in, you're like, well, that's actually kind of cool. And then if they set it up using the agendas and everything else, you can do some good work with it. It's quite fun. It's not very survivable, which is the unfortunate part. But if you do, like, 3 Lords of Change the other day, like, there's a lot of unbind potential. There's a lot of ability to cast spells, which I think is also really important as well. And the spell loadout is wild. If you do run this battalion, you've got to think up what spell loadout you're going to go for, and also your combination of spells. It's quite hard to do. It's quite hard to like work out exactly the way it works. But I have seen this played, and I've played against it, and at the end of the day, it looks awesome. Very much like that's right, Battle Chickens or the Battle Birds. Very much like we talk about the Fatties Battalion for Nurgle. It's at least a very, very cool battalion in the Omniscient Oracles, and I quite like it. It's not strong by any means or any stretch of imagination, but you have to just be like, do you know what? That's cool, right? Or do you not think that? Nath, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's cool, I guess.
No?
No, that's cool. It's cool. That's cool. Yeah. It looks cool. If it's actually cool. Yeah. I'll give it the cool thumbs up.
Just the cool thumbs up.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think that's all that it can get.
Okay.
It's yeah. It'll look quite cool. We've seen that a couple of times, haven't we? So
yeah, well, it's kind of fun. So you can obviously take this in the sub-faction, the Guild of Summoners, which kind of makes the most sense if you were going to run it. Which they've got an ability which your Fate Points can only be used to summon Lords of Chains. The first costs 9, and the second costs 18 Fate Points. So so you could potentially
End up with loads. Yeah.
You could end up with loads, but not that you would necessarily want them. So I think that's quite fun. And then you can also get some command points from the command trait. And then for some reason, the artifact that you get on the Guild of Summon is friendly units wholly within 12 inches of the bearer of this artifact do not take battle shock tests, which is like, well, that's kind of okay, but I don't like. I'm probably going to take 4 chickens.
I've got 4 Lords of Change that aren't going to battle shock.
I mean, you would take units with it as well. I mean, what's good about the battalion is that you then get to kit. Kairos obviously can't give a trait to, and you can't give a command trait. You can't give an artifact to. So you've got a command trait and artifact for your general and your bird anyway. Then you can take another bird with another artifact, right? Yeah. Which is a fun way to do it, I think. Ultimately, kind of interesting. I mean, Tzeentch is in a very interesting place, actually, just talking about that and generating the fate points. Because if you go up against the right armies right now, specifically Lumineth, they're just spamming spells all day. And actually, if they're getting their spells off, that's pretty bad news for you as an opponent. However, even if they're just trying to, like, whatever they're casting, you know, they've got a lot of spells that they're casting. That's a lot of fate points you can generate as a Tzeentch player, which is quite fun. But I don't think I'd lock myself into just summoning another Lord of Change. It's not quite the utility I'd want. I don't know about you.
What, you don't want 4 chickens, 5 chickens, 6 chickens, 9 chickens?
I do not.
That's not the army you want to play?
No, I do not.
Well, if you had a game against Lumineth and by the end you had 15 of them on the board there.
15 chickens.
Can you imagine charging 15 in and just being like, cool?
Well, can you imagine buying 4, Kairos and 3, and then you go, do you know what, I'm going to take Omniscient Oracles, yeah, and I'm absolutely going to go in the Guild of Summoners, and they're like, sweet, and they're like, that means I need to buy a 5th Lord of Change. Like, and then James is there like, but what if you get another one? You're like, okay, a 6th Lord of Change. At what point are you like just bored of buying Lords of Change? Ultimately.
What are they?
I mean, it's a cool War Squad battalion, and you can make it do okay work, but the characters themselves are genuinely fairly fragile, and you can take a kicking quite easily. So it's a bit of a shame that they don't. I would like to see them get, like, Lords of Change get something. Maybe they heal D3 when they cast a spell or something. I think that would be fun, because they take chip damage quite well.
It's absurd, but it's also... I think it's kind of fun, because you can give each one a job.
Yeah. And a name.
Their jobs. Dinner.
Job.
Breakfast.
Yeah, you're like, well, this one's my bricklayer, so he's into combat. This one's my surveyor, so he's going to be ranged. Like, they can each have they need a job. They keep the stuff going. I'm waiting for a battalion that's one of each of the greater demons. That would be rad.
Like in Loka or something. Yeah, that'd be fun. All right, next one, Skyshoal Coven. This is 140 points. And it's 2 units of Zangor Enlightened, and they must be on discs, and 2 units of Zangor Skyfires. After a unit from this battalion flies over an enemy unit, you roll a d6. On a 2+, it takes d3 mortal wounds. That's it.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I know that we're all going... We want to push for big, 1-drops or that kind of thing, but, I mean... Enlightened aren't bad. Skyfires, they're nowhere near as dominating as they used to be, but they're not bad. Well, not completely shit house, I guess.
It also doesn't say once per game.
No, it's not. After a unit from this battalion flies over an enemy unit. No, so you can do it 4 times.
Yeah.
So if I move over here, then charge back over here.
No, it's no. Only after a unit from this battalion flies over an enemy unit. It
makes a normal move.
Yeah, it makes a normal move.
Normal move. But I'm just looking at it though. You can pick 1 unit that has any models passed across by any models from the friendly unit and roll a dice. I know it's tricky there, but could you move all 4 units over the same unit and do 4d3 mortal wounds?
What's the wording again?
You can pick 1 unit that has any models passed across by any models from that friendly unit and roll a dice.
Just the 1.
Oh.
Because it's any. It's the inclusion of any. So you pick 1 unit and any move over it then, because any includes all. So that's yeah. Woo!
Well, no, but it says any models from that friendly unit. So it's specifying like after so it's saying when a unit from this battalion makes a move, you pick one enemy unit that has models moved across by that unit and roll the dice. So it's done one at a time. It doesn't say that it's exclusive to the battalion. It's every move. So I actually think that all 4 could move across the same unit and do 4d3.
Okay, I'd have to look at it. And see what it is. I don't know if anyone in the chat, like Chris or Joe, have got any thoughts on it. But I mean, that would be awesome if they could, because ultimately Skyfires aren't bad. They're just a tiny bit overcosted, or everything else is undercosted versus them. Ultimately, but you do get to rerolls to hit and wound on like a pretty outputty unit. Ultimately, if they charge, that are also really fast, and then the Zangor Enlightened are also decent as well. So like. They're not awful because they're fast and they're punchy. So I always felt like they'd make good counterpunch units in the Tzeentch list. But the problem is the Tzeentch lists are so honed in what they do in these 1-drops and everything else that taking like a mixed force is a little bit weird, because you really want to skew into the Tzeentch list anyway. But flying over stuff and taking those mortal wounds is quite good, especially obviously if you're already doing shots from the Zangor Skyfire somewhere else. It gives you like a lot of output across the board. You're doing some shooting from the shooting unit, you're doing some movement, phase mortal wounds, and you're also charging, and then you're doing some combat as well. So there's lots of options there. And also, like, it would look awesome. A bunch of Enlightened, a bunch of Skyfires. You could max that out quite heavily, put some battle line units in and a character, and you could be what would that be? 5-drop. And you have a lot of dudes moving around, so I guess. I kind of like, say they were move, because they're flying, right? They move across the unit, do the mortal wounds to it to clear it for your units that are following up behind them, and then they can charge forward or shoot forward and be clearing ahead. It's kind of useful, because, you know, how often do you get stuck in that time where you're like, there's the thing right in front of me that I really do need to take care of, but the thing my opponent's trying to protect in the backfield that's kind of getting away without being messed with. This kind of lets you do both. I actually, the more I think about it, the more I like it. It's a tool, and I kind of dig that. Yeah, and you do also get to, just pointing out, it's per unit, like Screamers. So you could do 4d3 mortal wounds to one unit. One unit. Which is kind of interesting. If like someone charges at you, you could like fly over, let's say, a monster, and then you could like charge into another unit as well, do all your mortal wounds on them. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's probably better than those Phoenixes I flew around. But it does require you to never fire that Grudge Hammer torpedo one time, Nathan. I want you to know that. Not one time.
Best torpedo in the game! I took out Nagash with a 6.6 on that once. It was Nagash flew in, chopped up a big chunk of my army. I had 10 brave Iron Drakes facing him down. There was a couple of wounds scratched off by the rest of their shooting, and then that unit champion with that Grudge Hammer torpedo did 12 damage.
Whoa, big boys in the house. All right, well, ultimately, I think that this has got some legs. James, you got any thoughts on it?
I quite like that one.
Okay, nice.
I think I don't know. There's something interesting, isn't there? I mean, I played Sigma in the point when everyone hated guys on discs because they were horrible.
They were, and still are.
But I think obviously they had a huge drop off, and I think actually if you wanted to get into a Tzeentch army at the minute, you could probably find this army fairly cheap because people aren't playing it. I think there's an interesting it's a weird list in Tzeentch because it's not how we expect Tzeentch to play anymore. Like, I don't think we expect to see a load of Enlightened and a load of Skyfires flying around. And I almost think like it's one of those lists that might do better than people expect because it isn't what people expect.
Yes.
You know, like there's those weird lists people occasionally take where they found a model and they found how it worked. And we saw it a bit at the end of pre the new Seraphon book where people started taking pterodons again. I almost feel like you might get that out of it. And that there's maybe a build in here somewhere that makes that work. I like that one. I think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be interesting to see. And you'd also have a hugely mobile army flying about the place. Okay. And that has benefits in its own right.
All right. Okay, let's move on. So the next one. So that's the Zangor Coven. So it's 43 mortal wounds like every other turn, plus a command point for 140 points, says William Aitken. So it's a good point, because obviously those units are going to get charged. You also get an artifact as well, which is quite nice in the Tzeentch list, to be able to put on some characters and units that you want. And also, ultimately, they're on not bad units. So it's not like top tier, which is why you've rarely seen it, but it's something that could see play. And that's really why we're deep diving them, because normally we'd just be like, I mean, I remember doing the Tzeentch thing. I was like, listen, I think I just started with. Did I just start with change host and work backwards? I'm pretty.
I think we did change host and then went, cool. You won't need the others.
Yeah. So it's nice doing the other ones. Right. Next up is the Zangor Coven. So this is 180 points here. If you like, so it's 2 units of Zangors, 2 units of Zangor Skyfires, and 2 units of Zangor Enlightened. Have you got the rules for this specifically, James?
Yeah. At the start of your hero phase, you can pick 1 friendly unit from this battalion that is within 3 inches of an enemy unit. It can shoot or fight. Why would it shoot 3 inches?
Because you've obviously got the Skyfires, right? That they're just going like pew 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 because they.
But I like the idea. Like, it loses its benefit. It's not like this. 1 unit can fight or shoot. It's like if you're within 3 inches of enemy, you can try and nail them.
But remember, Skyfires, because of their stupid discs, they're decent shooters, and then they charge in, and they're actually okay in combat too.
Yeah.
Well, Skyfires are great in combat. Yeah, they're a fighting unit, not a shooting unit. They're a fighting unit that sometimes shoots, and not a shooting unit that can also fight. They've always been thought of the wrong way.
I remember the first time I played, like this is when they came back. I think it was back when 27 Skyfires were taking out tournaments all over the shop. I remember the first time I came up against them, and my opponent's like, okay, cool. Like they'd buffed them up, so they're doing mortal wounds on whatever. I was like, oh, that totally sucks. And then they charged in, and I was like, or no, I charged them because I'm like, great, cool. Here we go. These stupid little shooters with their mortal wounds, I'm going to mess them up now. And then they ripped me apart. And admittedly, I was a little bit ignorant to it, but I was like, but what aren't they good at? And my opponent was just like, losing. I was like, yeah, good. Really nailed me the wall on that one. They're a little bit less, more approachable now, rather, but they sucked when they were doing that.
So Zangor Jack says, I love this battalion, but it's too expensive to run units of 10 Zangor do nothing. You need them at least 20. And yes, it's 180 points for this. Zangor also, for some reason, capped at 20, and that's because specifically 30 at one point were seen as very strong. 60 wounds in a block. Who would have thought that would be too much? Looking at you, Liberators. Then they got nerfed down. So yeah, it doesn't seem like it's super strong because it's in your hero phase. So you do have to you will have to have orchestrated that combat, and it does need to be a unit that you would need to fight twice anyway, which is a super weird situation, right? Like somehow, Nagash has charged your screen, you're within 3, you pile an attack, then in your hero phase you pile an attack, then in your combat phase you pile an attack. I get it, you've killed Nagash, but why was Nagash ever there? It's a weird play for your opponent to be in the wrong place at the right time, and that's how you're hoping to use it. Because if you're trying to use it aggressively, I'm charging in, I'm fighting, you're fighting me back, then I wait for the next hero phase. It's cool on a priority maybe, but that's a weird one to take. Battalion. I'm just going to talk about Skyfires a minute, just in case we all forgot, because we shouldn't. They've got 2 attacks each, 5s and 5s, no rend, 1 damage. They've got 1 attack on the beak, which is 4s and 5s, no rend and 1 damage. And they've got D3 attacks, this is the important one, 4s to hit, 3s to wound, rend 1, that do D3 damage. And they've got rerolls to hit and rerolls to wound, right? So in total, they've got 3 shitty attacks per 1, and then they've got on average 2 quality attacks. So for 200 points, you've got 6 quality attacks that are rerolling to hit and rerolling to wound, and then you've got 9 shitty attacks. So they're good. Ultimately, for what they do, the bow attack is just a random throwaway, right? You're like, okay, that's fine. Now, they're expensive, don't get me wrong, but for like the footprint that they can generate out, they charge, they move 16 inches, yeah, so they charge, they wipe a unit out, they reroll to wound, like wipe a little unit out, and you're like, okay, fuck, they're over there now. So they're quite useful, but you wouldn't use, this Zangor Coven is so hard to organise. It would be so tough to use. Nathan, you use a lot of units, armies that have to have holy wounds and stuff. How would you utilise this?
Yeah, the problem is it a problem that they are super fast? So obviously you can put them where you want to put them, but it's making sure that you've got to be concentrating. Otherwise, they are super fast and they'll have moved out of the fucking range. So yeah, it'll be a juggling act for sure. For show.
Yeah, and Zangor are also another thing to look at as well. So they're 2 wounds each with a 5-up save, and they do move 6 inches, so you can make them go like quite far, and they can charge. But that 5-up save and that bravery of 5 is pretty rough. So you're gonna need a character nearby to make sure they don't run away. I think you can only max the unit out to 20, so max you can do is 40 wounds. But then they're like a fighting unit who just can't survive the fight. Like, they're not survivable. Like, and other fighting units are just gonna beat them the fuck up. Like, not even talking about Hearthguard Berserkers. Not even them. Like, a whole bunch of other guys are going to kick their shit in, right? And they're going to be like, so, like, they're not what they were, right? Zangor needs something to keep them a little bit more alive. And it's just not in them. So I think the battalion itself is, but you could, I mean, it would be super fun. Go on, Nate, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, they don't have the quality. They're more of a quantity type unit, so they should be allowed to be in bigger blocks, really.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that they've reduced them to 20s is weird.
I mean, they used to be really choppy and really survivable. So my guess is just that in doing this, they've kind of reduced that back. So, but they made them neither survivable nor choppy anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It was both. They used to be pretty outputty. And then they also be pretty survivable, and then they weren't.
and then it's clearly what happened. It was interdepartmental conversation where someone was like, "Okay, we need to balance them. They can't be killed, and they murderize anything they look at. This is an issue." And someone was like, "Don't worry, boss, I'm going to fix it." And he was like, "Awesome." Then the next day, he forgot he had that conversation. Had it again with someone else who was like, "Don't worry, boss, I'm going to fix it." And so then the 2 different people. One person went, you know what, let's keep them killy because they should be, but not concerned about their survival because they're Zangor, and went, I've got it. And then the other person was like, it's Tzeentch, they're constantly healing and fixing themselves. They shouldn't be concerned with hitting things because they're hopped up on those Tzeentchian drugs.
You can take them in 30, I apologise. Thanks, Jack. I thought they got dropped to 20, but no, you can still take them in 30, but unfortunately that's 540 points, which is pretty obnoxious as a points value, ultimately. So, yeah, it's unfortunate because a lot of what we talked about here in the strength is the demon part of this book is so strong, and then the internal parity is everything else isn't. Even Skyfighting Lightning that we're talking about don't really get the look in that everything else does. See you later, Jog PLC, big love. So, unfortunately, the Zangor Coven is out in that situation. So then, also none of the change covens particularly benefit them either. Like, the actual Zangor element, none of them benefit. So the Cult of the Transient Form, that benefits Karak Acolytes. Host Arcanum, that benefits things that fly, which doesn't work for any of these. Host Duplicitus obviously works good for... Like, I suppose Host Duplicitus maybe would work with them. I guess. Whatever. Then Eternal Conflagration doesn't work for them at all. Pyrophane Cult doesn't work for them at all. Guild of Summoners doesn't work for them. Unbound Flux doesn't work for them. And also the Cult of Thousand Eyes doesn't work for them, so they haven't even built them a sub-faction for Zangor.
I think the issue with Zangor wasn't it? They were really strong in the last Tzeentch book, and then between this Tzeentch book and the last one, and all the nerfing that happened to that, they released the Beast of Chaos book, and kind of tried to make Zangor a Beast of Chaos unit.
They did. And
that's the issue.
Madness has just said that in the chat. Fortunately, there's a Beast of Chaos book for the Zangor to shine in. What's the catchphrase? One man's trash is another man's treasure. I think that's the one.
Yeah, it seems appropriate. They are both trash and treasure, and we love them for it.
Right, okay. So next up, What Flame Host? 140 points is an Exalted Flamer, and then 3 to 8 in any combination of Exalted Flamers, or Burning Chariots. Obviously, you can give them +1 rend if you take them in the Pyrophane Cult. Is that what it's called? I've run it on whatever it's called. The flamey one. Eternal Conflagration. That's it. So yeah, an Exalted Flamer, and then 3 to 8 units of Exalted Flamers, or Burning Chariots. At the start of the charge phase, that's right, at the start of the charge phase with your only shooting units, on a roll of a 6, each enemy within 9 inches of the battalion takes D3 mortal wounds. Now, it would be really funny to charge... within 9 inches of this battalion. Oh, of a model with this battalion. So, Dan, have you got the actual ruling for it? See that jab,
Yeah.
Big Love?
So is that both charge phases as well?
Yeah, it would be.
Wait, can you read it out if you got it?
At the end of the charge phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 9 inches of any friendly units from this battalion. On a 6, the enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds.
On a 6.
On a 6. On a 6.
Yeah.
So,
On a 6.
With your shooting unit.
Pretty cool. Because okay, think about it this way, right? If you went minimum, so only 1 unit of Exalted Flamers and then 3 more probably units of Exalted Flamers, let's be honest. Or maybe Burning Chariots. Then you put them behind your screens of all of your screens of horrors, because obviously you've got horror screens. And then suddenly your opponent on a 6 is copping D3 extra mortal wounds. Yeah, nah, not that great.
It's great for your opponent. Yeah. He's like, go on,
Sweet.
mate.
Spend 140 points on them. I mean, if the only thing I can see is that if you were going with a big flamer heavy one, you could possibly go with this. But at the end of the day, why wouldn't you go change host?
Well,
Agreed.
Well, the other debate is, so how many points is... It's 3 flamers, isn't it?
3 to 8 units of
No. How
Exalted
many points? Because the flamers come in 3s, right?
Yeah, they do.
And how many points is 3 flamers?
140.
You'd just take another 3 flamers, wouldn't you?
Maybe, but you do get to put it all. You do get to put it all in a 1-drop, not in a 1-drop. You can put it in. The flamers can become battle line if you take Eternal Conflag, and then you could put them all in one 140. So you could put them all in 1 drop, which I think would not 1 drop. I mean, you could do it 1 drop. It would be quite funny to do it in 1 drop. I mean, you shouldn't. Yeah, but I like
that
that
should
list.
be your army for the week.
Just spam flame. I'm pretty certain it's going to be the Screamers, but I also like the idea of just trying to burn the earth down, which would be quite fun. But unfortunately, it's just not enough output. I mean, you could maybe take some mins of 3 flamers, and try and wang them up the board, I guess, or even the Exalted Flamers actually, because they're only 100 points, so you could throw them up. And it's at the start of the charge phase, so actually you don't even need to be in combat with them. You don't actually need to be in close combat to try and generate it.
No,
but you can do all of this and then have it in the change host, and it's the same. You can have all of those units just in the change host anyway.
I think if it was a 6-up per unit you were in range of, every unit within thing could roll to do it on a 6, or if it was 1 as it is, if you're in range, it doesn't matter how many units, you get 1 shot at it. I think that would be fine as well. If it was a 4-up, they're just a 6-up, 1 shot at a 6-up per unit, for that many points when you've got... It's not even worth it if you didn't have better battalions in the book, I don't think.
I think the only other thing they could have done to make that better is had each model from that battalion that's within 3 inches, you roll a dice on a 6-up, they take 1 mortal wound or D3. It still wouldn't be that scary, because what you're basically doing is charging forward with a fragile paper unit, isn't it?
It is.
You're trying to counter someone charging you because they don't want to take the damage, but on a 6, taking D3 mortal wounds isn't going to scare anyone.
Whereas if I wanted to, I could just take Techless and then hope to do D6 mortal wounds to everyone within range of 1 spell, which is very different. So yeah, I mean, I think the problem is it's battling the What Flame host doesn't do anything for the actual flamers, which is weird. Yeah, although I do love the idea that they're all on fire. They're everything's extra on fire. You're that's quite fun. But it's not great at all. It's not great at all. But the idea of taking loads of flamers is obviously always fun. Taking them as battle line and having no actual pink horrors is just hilarious. But is ultimately one charge phase away from utter destruction.
The whole game.
The whole game. And no real way of mitigating it either, which I think is the interesting point. All right, so that's the Warp Flame Host. So the next one is the Witchfire Coven. So it's 160 points. It's 3 units of Carrick Acolytes and a unit of Zangor Enlightened. And don't forget, we can take them in the faction that we talked about before, where you could potentially generate some more Zangor as well, which I think would be fun. Just because you've got the Acolytes in. You can't generate the Enlightened, which I think, having read this, it's quite clear that they clearly thought that they were going to do Witchfire Coven, and then you were going to put it inside to, let me just get this right, the Cult of Transient Form. They were like, we've smashed this, lads. What we'll do is we'll give them a battalion, where what they do is anytime one dies on a 6, they're going to get a Zangor Enlightened. Then it went out into the world, and everyone screamed, and they were like, let's just make it Zangor. That's probably scarier. Like, that's probably better. Like, so it's quite clear, right? Anyway, so this means you get to shoot your Sorcerer's Bolts in the hero phase as well as the shooting phase, right? Which is quite interesting, right? So you can't summon. You definitely can't summon Zangor Enlightened from the other thing. So yeah, in Carrick Acolytes, actually, if you got the shooting phase off, shooting in the hero phase as well as shooting in the combat phase. Shooting the hero phase as well as shooting the shooting phase. Actually, it's quite a lot of shots. Let's have a look at it, shall we? Let me just go find it for you.
They're not bad. Like, they'll plink away at stuff pretty reliably.
Yeah,
they're alright.
Yeah. Do you want to know the stats?
Absolutely.
So it's 1 attack each, hitting on 4s, wound on 3s, no rend and 1 damage. But it's 18-inch range and they move 6, right? And I think you can take them in blocks of 40, the Carrick Acolytes. James, maybe you get the points for Carrick Acolytes for me. I'm 100% on them right now.
Yep.
And then they've also got a spell, very much like Pink Horrors. And if they cast it on a 6, until the next hero phase, they improve the rend characteristic of their Sorcerer's Bolt by 1. So they've got a rend of 1.
They're 100 points for 10.
Okay. And what do they go up to 40?
30.
Oh, okay, so you can have 30. So 300 points. But they've only got 5 save. But don't forget, with a Fate Master, obviously, you can re-roll all hits. So that hitting on 4s is pretty significant. So let's say you were to take 3 blocks of 30. You would have 90 shots hitting on 4s in the hero phase, re-rolling, and then 90 shots shooting the shooting phase, re-rolling. And obviously, also, if you take them in the Pyrophane, thank you very much, chat. I was about to bring that up. If you bring them in the Pyrophane Cult, you get +1 to hit with friendly Carrick Acolytes units Sorcerer's Bolt. So they're hitting on 3s, re-rolling, wounding on 3s, with Rend 1 if they get the spell off, which is quite useful. And then also, you roll a die at the end of the shooting phase for every enemy unit that has suffered any wounds inflicted by Sorcerer's Bolt. On a 5+, they take D3 mortal wounds. Do they get to reroll wounds from... also, the command ability, Immolate. During the shooting phase, you can pick a Carrick Acolyte unit holding within 12 inches of a hero, and you can reroll the wound rolls for attack. Now, that obviously only applies to the shooting phase, but you can pick a unit, you can reroll to hit and reroll to wound in the shooting phase. And then you could just reroll to hit in the hero phase. So if you could do a lot of shots, that would require you to have a Fate Master, which is 120, the Battalion, and then 90 Acolytes, who are the Battalion's 160. So you're looking at like 1,300 or so points. What was that? 280. Yeah,
900 points for those lads.
1,200 points for that. So you'd have 1,200 points for the combo, all in. So you've got 800 points to play around with, which I think is interesting. And, the Carrick Acolytes are not... they are shit in a fight. So, whatever.
They're not great.
They're not great.
Pretty models, though.
Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. Maybe only 1 can shoot in the hero phase. Thanks, Joe. Does it say only 1 unit, Dan? Have you got it?
Yeah, I do. Give me 2 seconds. Yeah, you can pick 1 friendly unit. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
but I mean, that just depends how good you are at counting, though. Like, if you just count, well, I'm going to pick 1 friendly unit. Now I'm going to pick 1 friendly unit. Now I'm going to pick 1 friendly unit.
Just put them all really close together and be like, this is 1 block of 90.
Yeah, well played. Yep. nailed them to the wall on that one.
And they're like, no.
I actually don't mind this as a little mini battalion that you could throw in there. It's kind of it's techie. I kind of like the tech on it. Nowhere again. I'm trying to put away the thing that I keep wanting to say, which is like, well, compare it to Change Host, Nick can eat a sack of dicks. But like,
Can't say that.
But like looking at it, I'm like, actually, in the same way that I saw there's like tech and there's use in the Sky Shoal Coven. I see tech and use in this. Like it's not a particularly crazy expensive battalion. I mean, 160 is expensive, but say you had a block of Kyric acolytes that are between the hero phase and shooting phase, they're clearing away chaff quite reliably so that your enlightened and your heavy hitters know that they're getting into what they need to get into.
So Halolex in the chat says, I had an opponent bring a unit up and shoot in the hero phase, then again in the shooting phase, and it hurt, which is quite fun. The rerolls to hit, though, is a CP, so you're going to need that in the bank. Rerolls to wound is another CP, so you're going to need that in the bank. So you're looking at 2 CP for what is like a lackluster, not lackluster, that's not fair. 30 shots, hitting on 3s, rerolling, wound on 3s, rerolling, with rend of 1 if you get the spell off, is not bad. Like, it's Iron Drake shooting, but, like, with rerolls.
Whoa.
That's not Iron Drake shooting.
It's not Iron Drake shooting.
Okay. All right. But,
it's better. Carry on.
Slow your roll there. Calm your farm. Let's not get too carried away on that one.
I apologize. But my point is, like, it's still not super strong. Because ultimately, after all of those bonuses have gone on these Sorcerer's Bolts, you think, actually, that's not a lot. Like, and I'm paying a lot to do it, and then the unit that does it is dead. I think. So, it's not brill. Not brill. I was like, oh, does that work? Like, I mean, ultimately, you've got 3 battle line units in those Kyric acolytes, and Zangor Enlightened, like we talked about, bonuses there. Like, could you have fun with it? Pyrophane Cult, Witchfire Coven. It feels like it's very thematic. It feels like what you need is the Kyric acolytes to come down some points because they are just trash. So they could probably come down to even 80 points each.
They're a bunch of old men. That's the actual stuff behind them, right? Like they're Kyric acolytes are old men that have like sold them. No, they've like legit. I'm not messing with you. They've sold themselves to Tzeentch, and he changes them, and so they're all young and ripped and fit. But when they die, they turn back into like 200-year-old blokes. Like there's a great scene where like I think it's Gotrek is running through a bunch of them in a cult, and then when he's killing them, he's like, "Are you kidding me? I'm just fighting old dudes. This isn't a challenge."
I don't think they're old dudes. They're quite buff dudes.
No, but I mean that's what they look like. Like inside, they are like a bunch of old. Like they've been transformed into that by Tzeentch. Like they go through a bunch of like spells and stuff to become that. So their bodies are young, but they're all like 80 to 200 years old, and like that's their reward from Tzeentch is to be forever young and all of that jazz.
Oh my god! I'll start worshipping Tzeentch as I get older.
Yeah.
But yeah, they used to be a good speed bump, says Tissarathi in the chat. I hope I said that right. 60 points for 10 wounds with a 6+ and a 6+ DPR and a mediocre shooting attack. Kind of missed that version. Yeah, it's Kyric acolytes are one of those units that I feel like need a lot of love. They've obviously got the Scroll of the Dark Arts and the Arcanite Shield. Does the Scroll of the Dark Arts even do anything anymore? Is that the Wizard? Whenever units can be... Oh, wait. Yeah, a unit that has any Scroll of the Dark Arts can add 1 to casting and unbinding rolls. So you do end up with a Wizard that can cast a spell on a 5, right? So that's not bad for its Garrote sorcery. And you can obviously unbind at +1. So there's something to be said for that. 3 in every 10 of the unit do get to have Cursed Glaives, which is 1 attack each. Hitting on 4s, which we could reroll. I mean, if you're close enough to reroll from the Fate Master, you might be close enough to reroll in combat as well. Hitting on 4s, wound on 3s, rend 1 and 2 damage. So, I mean, that's okay. You've got the Volcrack, which is 1 in every 10 models in the unit can be accompanied by a Volcrack. If an enemy wizard successfully casts a spell within 18 inches on a 4+, it suffers 1 mortal wound. I love the idea of running 10 units of Kyric acolytes. That's 1,000 points. Just literally hammer them forward turn 1. Your opponent makes a hero phase magic, starts rolling some magic dice. You're like, oh baby. then you can start doing some mortal wounds. But they've got the Arcanite shields. Now, the Arcanite shields are a bit of a shame because 3 in every 10 models can be equipped with a Curse Glaive, which is the special good weapon, and Arcanite shield, right? Oh no, they all have Arcanite shields. Don't worry about it. So the Arcanite shields give them a 6 up DPR, basically. So there's really not much to talk about with the Acolytes, which I think is a bit of a shame because they are unique inside this battle tome, and it's sad that they don't get more of a look in. I don't know what you guys think.
So they're only 100 points for 10.
100 points for 10.
They got loads of rules, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I mean, they're also a wizard. 100 points for a wizard that can cast and unbind. Yeah. They move 6 inches. They've got a shooting attack and a combat attack. So there's lots.
Do they get to take spells from the Tzeentch spell?
No, they can only attempt to cast their spell. But obviously, that's a bonus fate point in the pot for trying to cast spells, which is okay, I guess.
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, they're halfway. 100 points is halfway to a unit of pink horrors, and it's like, well, I know what I want instead. Because if I have 20 Carrick Acolytes, I basically have 10 pink horrors, and they're just so much better. The biggest issue with the lack of the Beast of Chaos keyword, so they too could have a spot to shine in. That's true. That is really true. That is a good point. Right, so that's all of them. There's also the Phantasmagoria of Fate, but that's a Beast of Chaos one, which we'll talk about later. There's also other keyword Tzeentch battalions like Enslaved to Darkness, which we'll talk about again later as well when we do those books. So, hey Kicker, hello, hope you're well. Thanks for joining us. Thanks everyone for watching live. So, for you three, which of you three which do you prefer the most out of all those battalions that we talked about?
For me, like, probably not on strength. So I'm probably not choosing here and going, this is the one I would choose to win games. But I would choose, I think, having gone through them all, the spawn one. The one that gives me back more, what are they called? Destiny dice. So the one that every time I use a Destiny dice,
Cabal.
Yeah, on a 2-up, I can get another Destiny dice, right?
Yep.
That's the one I'd be taking. That or the crazy one, the crazy hero one that lets me just keep making Destiny dice. And I would take everyone that makes people spawns, and I'd have a great day out. I'd take like 20 spawns in a box. I'd stare my opponent in the eye before I started the game.
Yep.
And I would be like, see this spawn? And they'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, they'll be yours soon. And then I play the game. And I think, like, for me, like, that's the most Tzeentchian. That's the one in the thing that's like the most Tzeentchian. Like, you're going to mess with your opponent's head. You're going to mess with their mind. You're going to ruin their day. And you're going to do it smiling. That's the one I'd take.
Seems about right.
Okay, fine. So, Dan, what about you?
Okay, so for me, it comes down to 2. And I'm struggling to separate them. So, but for 2 different reasons. First of all, I genuinely thought that I was going to be like, well, you couldn't go past the change host. But to me, it's boring. Like, it's just boring. It's like butter on plain white bread. You didn't even toast it first. I feel like I might have upset butter and bread fans there. And for the record, I worked in a bakery for a very long time. I love me some starchy carbohydrates. But the 2 it comes down to, 1, because I love the models, is the Witchfire Coven. My favorite element in any of the Chaos armies is the humans. Like, the demons are demons of that god, so they have to be. The humans that have sold themselves to it, they're so much more interesting to me. They're a more interesting story. They're more interesting to fight with. They're more interesting to build and paint and play. And I've converted a bunch of units out of Kyric Acolytes because they're just really cool models. So Witchfire Coven gets it for me because I not only dig the story behind the humans, I dig the models. I think they're awesome. The Enlightened are also super cool. However, gameplay-wise, I like the Skyshoal Coven. I get that Skyfires aren't that strong, but those 4 units have a lot of like work between them that they can do, passing over and doing mortal wounds. I just like it as a really strong toolbox battalion. there's a lot of tools, a lot of output, a lot of ability that comes out of it. So that's what I'm going to put my chips on. Sky Shoal Coven wins it for me.
Okay. All right. Nathan, got any thoughts?
Change host kicks butt, so I guess it's got to be that one.
Are you just going for change host?
No, I'm going to go for the Screamer one. I reckon one gazillion Screamers flying around the board being dickheads could be fun. Although the chariot one was cool. The flying chariot one.
The chariot one was cool.
Because I actually looked at the chariot war scrolls. It's all right. They are bent as well, aren't they? Fucking chariots, but
they are.
Yeah. No, but I'm going to vote for the Screamer one if I had to vote for one.
Okay. All right. I'm going to choose Omniscient Oracles, which is Kara's Fate Weaver and the Three Lords of Change. Like, it's not like the most fun and engaging for your opponent or even for yourself because it's actually quite stressful. You got to I've played against this though, and it does look awesome. It does look super rad to have on the tabletop. I think it's a fun. I think giving people the ability to take 4 of any of these, four Keepers of Secrets, 4 Great and Clean Ones, 4 Bloodthirsters, whatever your situation. I think it's cool to be able to do that. I quite like Hero Hammer battalions. I'd like to see this more. I'd like to see 5, 3 to 5 Chaos Lord and Carcadrax as a War Scroll battalion. And just it's just the Smash Bros, and it's just that's fucking cool. I'm really into that. I think that would be wicked. Give them some unique War Scrolls. I think some more of those would be quite fun to see. So I'm really happy with that. What else do I like? The Warp Flame Host. It doesn't really do much for me, but it would be fun to roll those dice on. I think that would be really fun. Probably yes. I was really hoping that I could talk myself and you guys could talk me tonight into wanting to play Carrick Acolytes, but there's just nothing in there. I think ultimately all that would happen is
that would be my second place to make you play for the week, but watching you having to play 69 Screamers just wins. It's the stream number.
Okay, yeah.
It's it's a good number that people love. It's a number that always is apparent whenever there's a little collection thing in the middle, and it's silly. And I can't wait. I don't know if he's in the chat tonight, but I like the idea that you're going to turn up to play Owen, and he'll be like, "Oh, so what have you brought?" And you're like, 60. No,
I'll say 63 Screamers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he'll be like,
and he'll be like, such a shame that you couldn't squeeze 6 more in. And you'll be like, oh, such a shame indeed.
But it does mean I'm taking, so the Breakfast Battles are meant to, play something a little bit different. Unfortunately, everyone playing Host Arcanum at the minute. I'd just like to say, Nathan, you were there for that Battle Tome review. Nathan, I did say, James, I was saying Host Arcanum's the one. Remember I said it was the one.
Sure, I'll just say yeah.
Whatever.
could not get a more apathetic response. I said that was it, right? Yeah, Buggy. Yeah.
Someone go back and clip it, and we'll see.
All right, whatever. Okay, fine. Okay, yeah, I think that one is fun. Ultimately, in a book that isn't as engaging as it could be, because there's lots of cool units in there. I think that the Zangor part makes the army. The book less interesting because you can't really toy into it. They don't have. Where's the Mutileth Vortex Beast Battalion? Where's that?
He's a Slaves to Darkness model, though, isn't he? Now, technically,
is he? He's in Tzeentch. He's got keyword Tzeentch.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, he's a Tzeentch. Yeah, yeah, Tzeentch. Yeah. See, where's that? I feel like there's some more creativity that could have been done here. But then, where's the Dispossessed Battalion from Cities of Sigmar? I think that's one of the interesting things that only having done 2 weeks this battalion stuff is, for me, it feels like that you could actually be really creative with these battalions, and you could end up with it would be a really fun and engaging way to get people collecting these very unique storied armies, I think.
I think also if you gave War Scroll battalions out that spoke to people, so if there was one that people really wanted to play, so someone like the person Dan used to be, if you gave them a dwarf battalion, would have
We
taken
couldn't get
it.
through a show without this.
Dan now probably
Someone
would only
that I
take the
used to
elf
know.
battalion. However, like, if there's so many old dwarf players that if you'd have put a dwarf battalion in to that cities book, would have taken it, whether it was good or bad. I think like people like to use their toys.
I honestly wish with battalions what we would see more of is not. I wish we were right away from one drops. They take a lot of the interest in the game out of it for me, and I know that other people feel differently. That's totally fine. But what I wish we had more were like your Sky Shoal covens and your Witchfire covens and whatnot that are small sub elements of a greater army. You know, that you have that the series of models and the battalion and the ability that comes from that, and you use that to build the tools within your army rather than this is my army, this is my one drop, this is my rifle, this is my gun, all that kind of jazz. So I kind of like that that's sort of where they went with Cities of Sigmar. But again, the problem is you look at this and you can take any of these battalions in any of the sub factions and create really versatile and different stuff. You go to Cities of Sigmar and you're like, cool. Like it would be, how awesome would it be if there was one that was like 2 units of free guild guard, 2 units of free guild shooters, and a free guild general, and it's like there's your free guild platoon, and then you've got your Dwarden shield wall, and you've got your elven scouts. Like if rather than being like, oh, it's your Hammer Harley and Lancers, it's your demi riff line breaker formation or whatever. Because I'd love to run. It's stupid, but I'd love to run demis. I just can't. There's such a missed opportunity to sell models as well, which is I think the thing that frustrates me is I'm like, from a game point of view, give me these goddamn battalions, but from a money point of view, it's like I want to give you my money, but you're making me unable to play the units that I want to give you money for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you have no reason not to give me this.
Yeah, I agree. Well, so overall, pretty fun. Unless Nathan, you got anything to chip in on the battalions thing, or like?
The Gobber Blues has got its own battalion.
We'll come to that. That's another week's show.
Oh,
Good.
Brilliant.
Good times.
Brilliant. Okay, all right, listen. You're all brilliant. Thanks for tuning in and listening to the show. Thank you to Nathan, James, and Dan. You guys got any shout-outs before we head out today?
I'm going to shout out Silas. He's a funny-looking fellow, isn't he? There you go.
Thanks, Nate. James?
I got a big shout out to Dan, who's managed to do the show and a ribbon while in obviously the finest state that he could be in on a Tuesday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Monday morning? Oh, you're a day behind.
Yeah, I'm in the past, baby. Living in the past.
Dan, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Oh, I don't even know what I'm gonna shout out today. I'm gonna.
Tequila!
I'm gonna shout out margaritas and regret, which just that'll be me.
I'm going to shout out the Twitch chat specifically today. I'm going to shout out Zangor Jack and Joe Cryer. Both of them are throwing in some great ideas in the chat there, so I appreciate you. Big love to everyone. Real Mr. Winters, Dude Our Day, love for you forever. Halalex, K-Dread, big love to you. One day we'll bring back the Wanderers. You're all brilliant. Thanks for listening to the show. Thanks to everyone on Patreon who supports the show so that we can carry on doing it. And thank you to everyone who listens to the podcast. I hope you stay hydrated, stay well, stay healthy. Don't forget that you can tune in tomorrow for the 40k Jason show. Breakfast battles in the morning, 3 of them this week. Looks like it's going to be a lot of screamers. Specifically, 63 plus 6. You guys are all great. Have a great day. We'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.